Let me know.
We're good.
All right. I'd like to call to order the April 13, 2022 Long Hill Township meeting. Can we start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act of New Jersey, adequate notice of this meeting, specifically the time, date, and public call and information were electronically sent to the Echo Sentinel and posted on the Township website. The agenda and public handouts can be viewed online at www.longhillnj.gov. A public comment period will be held in the order it is listed on the meeting agenda. Committeeman Lavender.
Present.
Committeeman Ray.
Present.
Committeeman Verleza.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Paserchia.
Present.
Mayor Dorsey.
Present. Thank you. All right, so first we have ordinance 487-22. It's a second reading. It's about the fire truck. So it's the adoption of the ordinance to purchase the ladder truck in Millington and the rescue truck and the new pumper for Sterling. Anybody want to discuss the purchase? Anyone? Any questions? All right. Anybody from the public would like to discuss the purchase of the 3 fire trucks? Now's your time. Megan, anybody on Zoom?
If there's anybody on Zoom that would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand now. I don't see anyone, Mayor.
Thank you. All right, so can I have a motion to approve ordinance 487-22 for the purchase of the 3 fire apparatus?
So moved. Second.
Committeeman Lavender.
Yes.
Committeeman Ray.
Abstain.
Committeeman Verleza.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Paserchia.
Yes.
Mayor Dorsey.
Yes. All right, we have the consent agenda resolutions. Do have to add one, which is going to be 22-106. That's the special permit for the Memorial Day Parade. I don't think anybody's going to have an issue with that. Are there any consent agenda resolutions that anybody would like to discuss or have to refrain from or anything like that?
I abstain from 22-098 and 22-100.
Aside from that, anybody else? Questions, comments? Seeing none? Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, motion to approve resolutions numbers 22-095 through 22-105.
106.
Now, because we have the, I have the marked up one, 106.
Okay.
Permit.
Second.
Committeeman Lavender.
Yes.
Committeeman Ray.
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Paserchia.
Yes.
Mayor Dorsey.
Yes. All right, liaison reports. Scott, you want to start today?
If you could start down that end, that would help me.
Go. Then I'll get back to Brendan.
Well, nothing specific liaison. I just want to say something. There was a comment made at the end of the last meeting, and I want to address it now publicly. The municipal employees, the town hall employees do an outstanding job. I think we were remiss in not pointing that out, not just today, but throughout all of COVID. So I want to publicly thank them.
And piggybacking on that, we checked, we did some statistics, and the turnaround time for Oprah request is what, 3.0 what days, 3.08 days? Is that what it was? Yeah, so it takes, on average, 3.08 days from the time a request is made, business days, until it is provided to the person making the request. Of course, they have 7 days to do that, but it's not just the clerk that has to deal with it. If the request is made to the DPW, they have to help out. Or any of us, they have to help. The police department, they have to help out. And any town hall employee has to help out with these requests. And sometimes the town attorney's involved too with redactions and researching them for legal purposes. So it's not just printing out an email or giving a document, sending it out. Personal information might have to be redacted and other things. So it's a lot more than just saying, hey, I want to know how many dog licenses we handed out. A lot of things start moving. So, of course, it relies on a lot of different people coming into play. So thank all the township employees for having such a great turnaround time. Brendan, you got any liaison reports?
No, nothing from me.
Guy, you did it, right? You're done.
Can I comment on
go
Brendan's
ahead.
jacket?
You will anyway.
Well done.
Where's the pastel? DPW, if you see a problem, please call the town, email the town, leave a message at DPW. we saw on Facebook, and luckily somehow it got reported, there was a storm drain up on ours at Hickory Tavern.
Yeah.
It was on Hickory Tavern, and somebody posted pictures of it on Facebook. The town doesn't monitor Facebook every 5 minutes, so if there is something, and as Chief Naga said 100 times, please call the police, there's a problem. Please call DPW, there's a problem. We don't have time to monitor Facebook. But it came in somehow, obviously the DPW figured out about it. Looks like the sinkhole was starting to move around the storm grate. And the next morning, I think they were out there by 6 a.m. And you had, what, two people out there all day. They rebuilt the entire, it was a 6-foot deep drain. They had to rebuild the whole thing and fixed it. So thank you for pointing it out, but please call directly. They have voicemail everywhere and they have email, and there's a report of pothole which gets monitored. So thank you DPW for getting to that quickly. They're also starting to do a lot of prep work around town. The continuous removal of the dead ash trees on township property seems like a never-ending project for them. They're doing spring cleanups, and they're gonna start grass cutting next week. Hopefully the weather stays nice. The street sweeper will be out next week, starting on Monday. So that's gonna be going around. And they've been doing the other, aside from that one big job, they've been doing their routine drainage work around town too. So obviously they have plans every day, but other things pop up, so they have to, if it's an emergency like that, because they don't want to get anybody hurt. So that's the DPW report. And there is, if you want mulch, email or call and make an appointment?
Yes.
Any resident can go down there and take as much as they want. Now you guys are open to what, 12 o'clock on Saturdays?
8 to 12.
8 to 12 on Saturdays for recycling, and you want to get mulch or drop stuff off. And if you want it delivered, there is a fee, but just email or call the DPW, make arrangements. They do deliveries on Fridays, correct?
Monday to Friday.
Mondays and Fridays. Thank you, Al.
What's the cost?
What's the cost for delivery for?
115.
It's $115, and what, you get a dump truck load?
Yeah. 8 to 10 yards.
8 to 10 yards for $115. Thank you. Vic, Scott, you can go.
Yeah, okay. So first off, we'll give an update on social services. This in from Shane Daly. She wanted to remind the residents that, in cognizant that food insecurity can be an issue, a reminder that 12 Baskets Food Pantry is going gangbusters lately. Even in the first quarter of the year, they've distributed over 5,600 pounds of food to families in need. They've had 7 distribution offerings to date and 5 pickups of perishable and stable food from the Hillside Food Distribution Center. So they have over 35 volunteers with over 200 hours of work from our churches in town, Long Hill CERT, the local area Boy and Girl Scouts, and other community volunteers. So just wanted to let you know about that. The food pantry is free and confidential. It's located at All Saints Church, but sponsored by All Saints First Presbyterian of Sterling and the Myersville Presbyterian Church. It's open the first and third Saturday of the month from 10 a.m. to noon. So that is the 12 Baskets Food Pantry. And a valid driver's license or state ID card is the only documentation that a resident will need in order to get food. So that is social services. So are you ready for recreation?
Yes, sir.
You're ready for recreation. So the annual egg hunt will be held this Saturday because of a rain date. So it's going to be April 16th, 10 a.m. sharp at Cantor Park. Flyer is out on our website. Also, Uncover Peter Cottontail's Trail continues through April 16th. Next, Red Cross CPR AED class, Thursday, April 21st, 6 to 9. You have to register on Community Pass, but spots are still available. More information on our recreation site. Basketball skills clinics, grade 3 through 8 at Cantor Park in April and May. Again, registration closes tomorrow. That's tomorrow, Thursday, 4/14, April 14th, if you want to participate in the basketball skills clinic. The Spring Fever Photography Contest runs through June 30th. Finally, we're still accepting applications for summer recreation employment opportunities. All that information is on our site. You'll also find information about Memorial Day Parade, the Sterling Lake Opening House, and the Summer Concert Series. 9 bands apparently lined up for that. And lastly, a little bit of sad news. Sorry to see Joe Patani leave. He was the Assistant Recreation Director. He resigns effective April 26th to pursue some other opportunities. But we're looking for someone to fill his shoes. So I think, Nancy, you are advertising a position shortly, right? So, and that's it for recreation. Thank you.
Thank you. Vic?
All right. Police liaison report for April 13th, 2022 is as follows. Self-initiated activity and calls for service year to date, 5,796. School activity year to date, 746. Motor vehicle stops year to date, 385. Community policing and proactive residential radar posts, 486. Arrest incidents year to date, 8. And actual subjects, both adult and juvenile, that were arrested is at 9. Major incidents. It is with great sadness that I have to report on April 12th, 2022, at approximately 10:32 a.m., officers responded to the Valley Mall in Gillette for a reported single vehicle crash. Witnesses on the scene reported the vehicle was traveling through the parking lot at a high rate of speed before it crashed behind Home Goods. The investigation revealed that a blue 2021 Lexus IS300 was traveling south at a high rate of speed into the mall parking lot when it left the roadway, struck a tree, and came to rest in low-lying water along the Passaic River. Sergeant Missy Sugalowski and Officer Christopher Gerisi entered the water and broke the windows of the vehicle to access the driver. The driver and single occupant, LaJoy Battle, 41 years of age, of Jersey City, was unresponsive with no pulse. Extensive damage to the vehicle hindered the initial access and extraction of the driver. The crash caused serious injuries to the driver, who was pronounced deceased at the scene by paramedics. The driver was extricated by members of the Sterling Fire Department, Milling Fire Department, Berkeley Heights Fire Department, and Morris County Sheriff's Emergency Services units. The driver of the Lexus was then transported to Morris County Medical Examiner's Office, where an autopsy will be conducted to determine the cause of death. The Long Hill Township Police Department is continuing their investigation into this crash, and anyone having information is asked to call the Long Hill Township Police Department at 908-647-1800. For community policing, we have the PBA 322 will be hosting their annual fishing derby at Sterling Lake from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. Please come and join us for a fun day of fishing at Sterling Lake. Hope to see everybody there. And that concludes my police liaison's report
Thank you, sir.
for April 13th, 2022. Thank you.
Administrators report. Ms. Malou.
Mayor, I only have one thing. It's an update on Cross Hill Road. The last meeting, I announced that on April 1st, when the asphalt supply opened again, that we'd be able to pave the road and it would be done. Unfortunately, the contractor has not been responding, so the road is not paved yet, and the engineers reached out to him on almost a daily basis. We're not getting a response. So we did get a complaint from a resident on the street today. You know, when is this going to get done? Like, they've been under construction for months, and unfortunately, we don't have an answer yet. But we're optimistic that hopefully before April, the road will be paved and it will be complete.
Clearly, they weren't paid, correct? The contract hasn't been paid.
They got one payment so far,
Okay, so they're
but
not
we still
paid.
owe them money, so, yeah.
All right.
I've heard of these things called performance bonds.
Really?
Do we have one of them?
Well, it's too late. I mean, it's too early for that. We still have their actual pay, so.
Thank you. Thank you. Just a couple things. Thank you again to our first responders who are at that scene. I know it's a tough call for everybody to be on, so we really appreciate your professionalism on that. Also, along with what Scott said about the 12 baskets, I'd like to thank local resident Barbara Barbeau, who's lived in town many years. She organized from people at ShopRite that earn enough points to get a free either turkey or ham. She organized through social media. People were donating their ham directly to her, so she would give it through 12 baskets to families in need, and she cut out the middleman. So she would go pick it up herself or made arrangements to pick it up from people's houses and get it to the people that need it. So thank you very much, Barbara. All right, let's see. Now we have, which is new business now, or discussion items. Discussion items. First is Lounsbury Meadow. Jack or Nancy, one of you can explain what that's about?
Yeah, Lounsbury has submitted a request to have you waive their application fees for
Construction and permit fees.
construction permit fees for improvements they're making to the facility.
Is there any reason we wouldn't do that, Jack?
It's up to you guys.
It's the company that's doing it. Is that a for-profit or not-for-profit that's doing it?
I believe that they have partnered with a for-profit company who's, I believe they're applying for $1.5 million in federal funds to improve the building, and they have partnered with a for-profit group to do that. So
They have to do that, if I can interject, as part of the tax credit application. And in fact, when the facility was originally built, Summit Bank came in as the silent partner on the tax credits. So for the first 15 years of Lounsbury's existence, it was not a nonprofit.
So our recommendation, considering that they're going to be doing $1.5 million worth of work, which will require our inspectors to go inspect, that you institute the fees because, well, A, it is partially for profit, and B, there will be a lot of work on behalf of our staff.
I have no problem with the fees being that it's not like just a quick inspection over there, and I'm sure if the federal government plan, I can't say I'm sure, but there's got to be soft costs baked in there, and these obviously soft costs that any construction project really needs, so I have no problem with the contractor paying the fees.
How much would the fees be? Do we have an estimate?
No, I mean, I don't even know what kind of work they're doing. We did invite them here if they wanted to, talk to you about it, but I don't think anybody's here. So we wouldn't know unless, is it a hot water heater, is it complete reconstruction? We don't know what they're
Yeah,
doing.
1.5, and I'm putting new rugs in, so.
I know they're putting in new bathrooms at a lot of the units and things like that, a lot of infrastructure, because it's all original from how many years it's been now.
And what are the fees based on? Is it a percentage of the job, or is it just every time the person goes out, we pay a flat fee? How does that work?
Construction permit fees are based on the cost of the job.
Okay, so if the job's 100,000, you pay one fee if it's whatever 100.
Right, and there's also
1.5
fees that
million.
go to the DCA as well,
Okay.
Department of Community Affairs.
We can't control that though, correct?
That part, no.
That's we have no. So they'd have to pay that regardless, since DCA waives it.
Right.
Okay.
And this is not.
They don't waive anything.
And the DCA is not going to waive it because they want to put some money in their pocket. So I have no problem with it because it's going to help fund our construction department. And our people are going to be out there probably more than once. It's not going to do one bathroom at a time, or one bath or 10 bathrooms have them come out
And-
once.
For your consideration, I know that the construction official in an upcoming meeting has asked me to talk to you about an increase in fees because the way that the construction department is supposed to work, it's supposed to pay for itself.
That's right.
And it's not coming close. You did about 4 years ago, I think you increased them, but it's still not cutting it. So it's already not paying for itself.
Would that be a function of lack of work or just that the fees don't add up?
The fees are too low.
Okay. That's a separate item for a different day.
Yeah,
I
the
guess.
fee, the fee.
Well, we'll give you an
Yeah,
analysis
something
of it.
different, okay.
Yeah, it's a different thing, but just for, if the fees are already too low and it's not paying for itself, adding in another, $1.5 million worth of inspections,
That we're not getting paid for is another
Right.
problem. I have no problem with them paying their fair share. But any other comments?
No, I agree with the mayor.
Me too.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to know a little bit more, but nobody came. I guess they were invited tonight. Remember?
they were.
All right, so I guess do we have to take a vote on that, or just a voice vote? Like, does anybody have any
Well,
objection to them paying?
I don't think you need to take a vote because
Oh.
you're not doing anything.
Oh, that's true, okay.
If you're waiving the fees, then we need a vote.
Oh, okay, so right now they're paying the fees unless we change
Right.
it. All right, that's fine. Okay, so we'll leave it the way it is. Baseball shed, Natasha Miller from the baseball softball session couldn't be here, but basically this is what they were looking to do, and they just wanted our permission. They have a shed down there, Scott's well aware of it, that it houses the equipment, the tractor, a lot of the dry stuff, shovels, stuff like that. And I've been in there, I was just in there the other day helping somebody move something. It's pretty rotted out, and it always gets flooded out, and the wood rots. So what they wanted to do was get 1 or 2 shipping containers and put them down there, obviously because they're going to last longer and they'll be safe. They said they're not asking us for any money. They just said because technically it's your property, we would need your permission to take down the old shed and put the new ones up. So Natasha said if she had any questions, we can always adjourn it and come back next time, but I personally don't have a problem. Scott, you were on the Little League board, so the baseball board, so you might have some input.
Yeah, that shed's awful. It's filled with mice.
Yeah, mice, there's all kinds. You go in there, there's always something scurrying around in there. So, and the garage door's always broken too. So I guess you have no problem with it. Vic, any issue with it?
None at all.
You guys?
No.
No? All right, so I'll tell Natasha, we can email her and tell her, yeah, they have our permission to get the shed. And as I said, they're not asking for any money. They just want, basically, go through the proper channels and ask for the permission to do it because technically we own the property. So that's done. Then we have police department renovation budget. Aren't they kind of one and the same?
I mean, no, not really. You wanted to talk about the renovations using the capital money from last year, particularly the staircase.
Oh, I wasn't at the budget meeting on the other day.
No, but that wasn't,
Yes.
that
Oh.
wasn't discussed.
Okay, so,
Because that money has already been allocated last year.
okay. So this is the issue with an external staircase?
Right, that was what you wanted to talk about.
Yes, I guess, Chief, it's your building, you're down there. I knew you had what do you call it, a temporary staircase when they were doing the renovation. Correct. Okay, so you wanna come to the mic so we can hear you? Just so people, I can fill them in, so people, the public don't know, this police station never been there, it's a 2-story building. How old is that building, Chief? Approximately. It was there long before the PD moved in.
75 years?
Yeah, the building's at least 60 years old, easily. Okay, and before, I mean, there's the first and second floor, there's no entrance from the outside to the second floor. Did I sum that up fairly accurately? Okay, and during the renovations, I know because I could see it from where I live, is they had an external stairway going to the second floor. And I guess as part of the budget request that you were requesting stairway for just basically to make that, it's removed now, but a permanent one. Is that, did I sum that up
That's
for you?
correct. That's really what made the building accessible during the flood, to be able to gain entry through the second floor and then make your way down. So if all the working parts function as intended, we can still pull up to the set of stairs or to the landing with the Humvee, get access into the building. We would still potentially be surrounded by water. But hopefully our building will be nice and dry and we can still operate out of that and avoid the trailers and that whole scenario again. So it would be an access. It wouldn't be necessarily an emergency exit. It couldn't be deemed an emergency exit. It would be a convenience usage as far as construction permanent is concerned.
I mean, I know you obviously probably don't have any bids, but do you have an estimate or general idea of something like that? I don't know, I really don't know.
It's going to be probably every bit of $50,000 to $55,000 for the price of steel.
Probably have to bid out then, right?
Probably.
Okay. All right, so what's the threshold?
44.
44, okay.
44.
All right, so something we'd have to get bids on regardless if we do it or not.
Yep.
All right, that answers all. Does anybody else have any questions regarding the staircase?
No.
Gentlemen? All right, thank you, Chief.
All right, thanks. As far as the bid documents, do we hire somebody in particular to prepare the bid documents, or is that prepared through finance?
I don't, I can't answer, Jack, you have an answer?
The engineer could help with that.
Do we have an indicative quote, though, to make sure it's over 44?
I don't know.
Well, when the engineer puts together plans, he could give us his estimate.
Okay.
We'd have to get quotes in any event, even if it's under
Yeah.
44, if it's over 6,600, so.
May had mentioned to me about a fire escape.
No, the chief addressed that. He said it's more of a convenience thing. It's not an emergency issue. That's what he said, at least.
Right.
Yeah.
What we were told by the contractors and I guess maybe the construction code officials is that in order for it to be a fire escape, there has to be some other parameters put into the building. You wouldn't necessarily be able to walk through hallways and rooms to use that. It would defeat the purpose of it being a fire escape because of the location it's put at.
All right, that answers that question. All right, any other questions about the stairwell?
So I guess the next step is to authorize the engineer to,
We'll get a price, we have
Talk to
no
the
idea
right.
what it is.
You can
All
leave
right.
it.
Thank you, Chief. All right, then we have general budget. Nancy, you want to handle that? We have Randy here too, our CFO, if anybody has any questions while he's here.
We had a budget meeting on Monday. The budget that we presented to you would result in a 1.8% tax increase and no new debt for the capital that was proposed. You had in front of you, or you've had emailed to you, the list of what was included and what was not recommended wise. So based on the meeting, a few questions came up. I don't know if any of you have questions about, for example, we did not recommend, we recommended everything the library asked for except for $10,000 to expand the senior room. We did not recommend giving Long Hill Baseball and Softball Association $70,000 to renovate their bathrooms. Pretty much every one of the recreation, DPW, and, well, recreation, actually, you have to talk about the lights, but that money would come out of open space, so it's not really a budget. I mean, it does have to be budgeted for, but it's not a product of how much that 1.8% tax increase is impacted. So otherwise, recreation, DPW, and police, and both fire companies, I believe, would have everything they asked for. It includes a close to $100,000 payment to the first aid squad, which is the second remaining payment of the ambulance. It includes $250,000 for document digitization, which was in my budget. That would be was it 250? 350. That was to what we discussed about digitizing all the township documents, and as well as improved signage in our building. The operating budgets, all the department heads have been over their operating budgets, and they were satisfied with what we recommended. Almost all the budgets are flat or 2% or under, generally speaking. So the things that came up at the meeting were the fire companies requested an additional $15,000 each in the aid to fire companies that we provide. Right now, we provide $45,000 each, and they asked for an increase to $60,000. We did not recommend that because it was a last-minute request, so it wasn't put into the budget. And then the planning and zoning came in much higher for master plan. So they asked for an additional $25,000. I sent to you yesterday, Randy put together what putting those things into the budget would do to the budget increase. You can talk to him about that. You can tell me include some, don't include others. Do you want to have a discussion about those items?
Well, I have a question about the master plan. It seems like we just throw money in the wind all the time and we get nothing. We paid topology. I remember because Brendan I remember you were part of that.
Yep.
So I don't know what I'm not blaming you, I'm just saying is that I know they actually did something, but we paid them a lot of money. What are they, reinventing the wheel here? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
No, I think, this whole master plan, as we know, has been going on for 8 years now. It's a long time, and it's, we've had some twists and turns. There've been a lot of material has been put together both by board members and, reviewed by professionals, and a lot of work has been done by the volunteers as well. And so I think we were really we're kind of at the 11th hour almost. We have to get it done this year. And there was a new direction has been brought to the planning board. We disbanded, as you know, the master plan committee. It's now sitting squarely with the planning board as it should be, as a document that it has to produce. And the planner at this point is very much involved in the process of the writing of the master plan, and so that is the explanation for the $3,000 to $4,000 per month billings potentially that might come from it. I think that's high, to tell you the truth. I do believe it's high, but nevertheless, if we want to get this done this year, which we have to, I think we need to put a reasonable amount of budget towards it, and I think it's you know our next version of the plan of the master plan is not long in coming, obviously, since we've taken so much time with this one. But I think there's a lot of lessons learned here that we can make the process much more efficient as we move forward.
What's the planner rate per hour? Do you have any idea? I don't expect you to know off the top of your head, but a general idea?
I think it was, we asked that, it was 150,
125, something like that.
145.
So it's $145 an hour. That's a lot.
Yeah, so it's
That's
like between 20 and 30 hours a month.
That's a lot. That's like a half-time job.
What happens if it doesn't get done
Yeah,
this
that's a
year?
good question.
Well, I mean, if I could opine on this, and I know Brendan knows this, and Jack, you can give us the exact date. Years ago, it was time of decision in terms of what could be done on a property, and the state changed it to time of application. It doesn't have to be completed. And why does that matter? Because for years, Long Hill has avoided maybe development that it would not like. Why? Because of the sewer ban. We're going to lose that. And there's another thing that's soon, and defined soon in terms of time. Any developer worth their salt is well aware of the so-called Gateway project, which people think involves the Portal Bridge, but it involves a lot more than just the Portal Bridge. That's the second tunnel into Manhattan. And so everybody knows that this little town in the middle of nowhere, they go along the Gladstone line and they see Long Hill Township, 3 train stations. So if we want to avoid, or we want to shape what Long Hill Township's going to look like, that master plan must be completed. And look at Morristown. Morristown is beautiful now, but why? Because of 1-seat trip, Midtown Direct into Manhattan. This line will, when that project is completed, will have constant 1-seat trips into Manhattan. Long Hill Township, we're in a great spot, but we need to make sure that master plan is done.
Yep.
All right, so I'll ask the question again. What exactly happens if we don't get it done by December 31st this year?
Like, is there a fine or penalty? Is that what you're asking? Yeah.
No fine or penalty, but ordinances have to be consistent with the master plan. I guess as a stopgap, you could do a reexamination, but that costs money as well, and we've done that.
We did that.
Many times
yeah,
already.
We did that.
Okay, so here's the next question. It feels like we're throwing money into a pit,
Yeah, that's.
right? And so when does the money stop being thrown into the pit?
Well, I mean, I think at this point, this is it. You know, we have I think at last we have a group within the planning board that have been involved up to this point and are now looking at a much kind of scaled down version of the master plan. I think people just got too invested in their vision, and so you had a committee of people who had different visions of what the town was going to look like.
Had they stuck a flag in the sand and said, this is the date this is gonna get
Yep.
done?
Yep, they have.
What's that date?
it'll be done by December 31st. That's what's been
And do they have
said.
a series of checkpoints along the way so we know that they're getting there?
Yep, that's what we're, they're going to provide that to the board, and we're going to have a scheme of of regular updates, which we've never really had before, and then we're also going to have a schedule, which the real proof of it is going to be in the schedule of the elements whenever they come for the public meeting.
And so can we put hooks on the money to make sure that we're getting what we pay for?
How would we do that?
I have no problem with that, because like Scott says, like, what I don't understand is they have a working document. It's like they're starting from scratch, right? I mean, you know better than I do. So if we had like our employee handbook, we have to update if the rules change, laws changes. There's a working document. It wouldn't take the labor attorney or anybody else who knows what they're doing 150 hours to redo our employee handbook. So there's a working document there. So I mean, and especially these are professionals. It shouldn't take them that long to do it. That's
I
my
guess the
concern.
question I'm asking, can we partially fund this request and then revisit it mid-year? Is there a way to do that?
I don't think that would be wise to do that, because it's not just a matter of taking a document and revising it or bringing it up to date. There have been significant changes in how the external changes to the world that impact Long Hill Township in the time since the last master plan. And so we need to have a fresh document for that. Now the document is, as I say, it's we've had different committees with each member with different view of how the township should develop, and so it's kind of the process has kind of really been spinning its wheels for some time. This year, I believe, with some of the group from the planning board members who are involved, and the leadership that we have right now with that committee, I believe that this is the right thing to do, and we should give them the tools to move forward. And one of those would be funding the planner to do the writing.
Go ahead.
And I don't think it's clear. The risk is far more than a fine. That's not what we're talking about. And Jack, you can opine about the legal aspect of this better than I can. If an application comes in and it meets the current criteria, it must be approved, even if it doesn't get built tomorrow. So my concern, and I agree with the characterization that this has taken a long time, but putting that to the side, we need to complete this master plan to say exactly what we want this town to look like. Otherwise, somebody could put an application, buy a property, put an application in now. And Jack, I don't know what the statute of limitations are on it, but the sewer ban or the sewer limitation now is what limits the ability for something to be built. But if somebody were to put in an application now, what would happen?
As you said, the state has changed the trigger date to the time of application as opposed to the time of the decision that used to be in effect. And although there's a sunset provision for site plan approvals and subdivision approvals, that's told during times when they can't connect for things like a sewer ban. So theoretically, some developer could come in and get approvals now, and they would extend. They also have the right to come in and ask for extensions, and they'd certainly be entitled to an extension if in fact they couldn't develop the property because of a sewer ban.
Thank you, Jack. So again, back to my point, and I don't think I was clear. I don't care about a fine. I do care that something would get built in this town based on the current master plan that is not what, forget this township committee, forget the planning board, but what the residents would like to see. And that's why, for me, I'm going to defer to Brendan. If you think this is necessary and we can get it done, that's where I am.
And again, I can understand the, reservations people may have based on the past. It's been a really long time. It feels like we throw a lot of money at it and nothing really happens. But as Committeeman Ray said, I believe that we're in a position now to actually knock the ball over the goal line and get this done. And it must be done.
I think people need to know, I mean, that this extra money that's being asked for really moves the needle on the tax rate if we don't move other stuff around. So the planning board needs to understand that they gotta work with urgency on this one,
Absolutely.
right? Because this moves the needle.
How does it typically work? Because, for example, if the planner's working by herself or himself, it'll get done. But if you have 15 members calling constantly, making suggestions, the bills go up because there's more time. Like, how does the process work?
Yeah, no, there are 3 members right now on the subcommittee
Okay.
from the planning board, and so they're kind of working between themselves around each one of the elements, and then once they've reached a kind of a consensus, then they sit down and talk to the planner, and the planner then starts to put it into proper language and starts to maybe fleshes out some of the ideas that they've come up with.
Because I've seen the process. I don't like, because you were probably at those meetings too that I saw, and it's ridiculous. It's like arguing over a clause in an insurance coverage contract. They get caught up in such minutia. It's ridiculous, and that's probably why it takes so long.
Yeah, no, that is exactly the problem, and that was allowed to kind of continue for many years. But I think at the end of last year, we said, you know what, this we've been doing this. It hasn't worked. We have to have a new way of looking at things.
I do have my concerns, as Scott did, is we say, hey, you got $8,000, you know it's gonna cost $8,000 to do. That's my concern with the project. But as Guy said, it has to get done. But how much did they ask for total?
Initially, the request was for $20,000, but then at the budget meeting, that could have possibly tripled, but we scaled it back. So that's I believe, additional 25 in the budget?
They're looking for
40 altogether? Okay, so 40 altogether, so it's double. Just so you know, though, that goes from January to December. What we've already expended has to be included out of there, taken out of there. And it also will include, that's not just master plan, that's anything that the planner does for planning board that doesn't go to an escrow.
Yeah, at $145 an hour, it's 275 hours to get the $40,000 to do a project that's practically done already. That's where I find the disconnect here. And like I said, I don't disagree, it has to be done, but I don't see how it's gonna cost 270 hours to do a project. They could start from scratch and get it done faster. That's,
I mean, what might be? Are we in a? What kind of time crunch are we in for this? Because I'm just wondering whether, we ask for one of the members of the subcommittee to come in
Or the planner or somebody.
and talk about it.
Well, we wanted to introduce the budget at the next
At
meeting.
the next meeting, okay.
Deb is on I don't know if Deb is, if you're looking for a subcommittee member, but Deb Kuntz is on the Zoom, if you have any questions for her.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's just, I know that I've been going back and forth with the head of the subcommittee, and that number is still valid as far as my last conversation. The kind of the $3,000 to $4,000 per month, potentially on the high side, but still somewhat valid.
Yeah, there's definitely not 4,000 a month in there, but, we thought that was a little high.
I don't know if Guy asked it or Brendan or one of them, Scott maybe, is that, hey, you say, hey, you can have 20 grand and come back later, because sometimes, other departments shift money around and ask for other things later in the year. Is that possible? Because we can get a status update?
After November 1st, you can't transfer it till then.
We can wait. We've been waiting 8 years for this thing. They can wait 3 months to get paid.
It's different people, but I hear you.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, 20 hours per month, right, is probably somewhere around $2,900, right, with 20 hours.
Per month?
Yeah.
$2,900 per month?
Yeah.
So we've got roughly 7 months left.
40,
34.
34, okay.
right, 7 months, that's $21,000, right?
Yeah, well, for the year, it would be 34.8
Or actually.
I'm saying going forward.
going
For
forward.
the year, I mean, what she's already spent. I don't actually have that figure. Maybe Deb has it.
But to Jack's point, it's November 1st. If we want to really cut it close, we can say 10 months. You could do 10 months on that, with the possibility that there would be money available after November 1, right, Jack?
Correct.
So if you wanted
Yeah.
to, you could take, say, you can make it 28 or whatever it would come out to.
Yeah,
I don't know, Matt, what do you think? If we said 28,000?
That's more realistic, I think, and then if they need more, they can always come back and wait till November. I mean, you should have
yeah,
something.
no, I think that's a good way of doing it. I think that's a good compromise to do it.
Randy.
Looking at Randy,
Randy, do
Splitting
you-
the difference with them,
That sounds,
30.
was it
It's-
28?
I think we said 28.
Yeah,
28 additional.
Total.
In addition to what's been spent, your total from January to December.
What was January to December?
it was probably.
No, I'm saying January to April, we've already spent money.
How much?
Well, I was talking, I think Brendan was talking per month.
Yeah, it was. I thought we'd allocated, if we allocated somewhere around an average of, say, $3,000 a month, just to say that's just a little bit over 20 hours to do it. So over the course of the 10 months, it would be 30,000.
Right, but I understand Nancy's point. Whatever money's been expended, you
Yes.
wanted to.
But that would include the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much has been expended so far?
I actually don't have, okay, Deb said $5,000 to date, $3,700 in February, $2,700 in March. That's more than 5,000. What about January, Deb?
64, all right.
64 plus January.
How much is January, though?
I'm waiting.
Do you want me to allow her to talk? Oh,
Yeah,
she's
that'd be-
raising her hand.
Yes, please do, yeah.
Yeah,
Because we'll get to the 20, probably. We'll end up getting to that $20,000 number.
Hi, Deb, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
yes.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry,
Go ahead.
$5,000 was, my second text to Nancy was, actually, it was $3,700 in the month of February and roughly $2,700 in the month of March. She did not, she meaning Liz Laney, our planner, she did not do any non-escrow work for the master plan in the month of January.
Oh,
So 6,400.
6,400. So if we deduct 6,400 from 28,000,
Okay, but I think you also have to look at what you spent on non-master plan, because that comes out of the budget too. So Deb, do you have that? Was there
I
any,
get it, yep. It'll take me a minute, but I'll look it up, sure.
So those numbers that, what Deb's looking, those numbers you gave are only for the master plan or the total that she's billed us those 2 months?
that, Deb just said that's what she billed
Okay,
for
so
master
some of that
plan.
gets struck, okay.
No, for
But-
master plan
Oh, master
only.
plan.
But most
She's-
of what she bills is probably charged to escrow accounts.
That's true, okay.
Let's go account, yeah.
All right.
No, she's coming up with, what is not escrow.
I believe, I'm gonna say, I'm gonna double check as I log back into the office, but I believe it was somewhere in the range of $1,500. Or maybe 1,000, because it was, January is the month
Yeah.
of resolutions and reorganization, et cetera, so, and we had some I don't think she billed more than 1,000, but let me double check.
1,000 per month, Deb, or 1,000 total
1,000 total in January for non-escrow,
for January?
yes.
So is it safe to say it's 1,000 per month going forward for non-escrow, non-master plan work?
No. There's months, for non-escrow general planning board, there are months when she doesn't opine on any other matters, and that she has no billing. If it's master plan related or ordinance related, then she bills non-escrow. Does that make sense?
So is it safe to say that outside of master plan, non-escrow work is 7,500 a good estimate for the year?
What's wrong?
Did you say yes?
I'd have to look up, I think one of my previous budgets had a lesser number. I think we usually, about 5 to 7, I think was average, if we're not doing master plan or ordinance work.
5
For
to
non-
7,
for non-escrow.
is that what I heard?
5,000?
5 to 7?
5 to 7?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
we'll go 6, so $6,000, plus, you said 28 for master plan? So that's a total of 34 plus, oh, you're saying include what she's already spent, that 37 plus 27? You're saying that's
Subtract-
included? Okay.
For 10 months.
Yeah,
it's
yeah, I mean,
$5,000.
it's $6,400 so far, plus the
Right,
1,500,
so
it's
we-
like 8,000's been spent so far this year.
Yeah, and mysteriously, we get from 28 less 8, we get to that $20,000 number.
So, okay, so it's a total budget for planning of $35,000, 34, 35.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah,
And that doesn't include, that doesn't include the legal, correct?
Other stuff in addition.
no, this is only
Yeah,
planner.
everything.
Oh, okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
For legal, we budgeted 10,000? 15,000, and for engineering, we budgeted 8.
Outside of escrow.
Yeah, but that's,
I
hold on.
I think my original.
Which, by the way, if you're gonna look at master plan, and you wanna look at master plan as a whole, what you were looking at is just the planner. We also budgeted 15,000 for a legal for master plan, and it also, some of that goes towards other legal, there's not much. And then 8,000 for engineer. Again, there's usually not much for engineer outside of master plan.
Okay, fair.
So the total, if you're looking at total cost of master plan, 28 plus 15 is 43, plus 8 is 51,000.
All right, so what's the number, you can, what then, Brendan, 34, 35?
Yeah,
That was the all-in number,
that was
right?
the all-in number.
35 all in.
But then we deducted November and December because hopefully come November
done.
1st, there's something available, or there's
Yeah.
something available to be transferred. And then we took away the 7, I mean, why don't we just say no more than 20,000? However you want to phrase it. So that way, it addresses something to Matt's
Well,
concern
it's
that.
gonna cost 20,000 then, but I get it, they're not gonna cost more.
Oh, I thought we were at 35. Now you're saying 20?
Well, because that included everything for
That's
the whole
everything,
year.
that includes everything.
Everything, even outside of the master plan.
Yes.
Okay. Randy, is that a number you can work with?
35, 20, and 28.
Well,
Then it was 20.
If you do 35, if you take the 6,400 and divide it by 2, that's 3,200 a month, times 11, 35, 2, plus 6 or 7 or 5, you can do 5, that's 40,000. So if you want to do 35, knowing in November we could transfer funds if they're available in other departments, I think with the 35 and the other 2 professionals, I think we could make it.
Because they can move money around among the professionals.
yeah, so that's,
You know, those aren't hard and fast. You don't need
Right,
to
not
wait
hard and
for the
fast
transfer date to do that.
I didn't realize that.
yeah, so if they only use 2,000 in legal
Um,
for 11 months, they
All
can
right.
transfer.
They can transfer it.
35. 35 it is.
Okay, and what about the additional aid to the fire companies?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just, you know, I don't know if you looked at the tape of the meeting, but this was a late, this was a very late request coming in from both fire companies. And I won't give any excuses for it. It's late, but we are facing, you know, a number of increases in both our training budget and just in general bills, and so any amount that we could be given would be it would be a big help to us. I mean, I think I'm not saying we're going to be, you know, destitute, but, you know, we have taken some hits over the past couple of years on funding, and as I say, things are general costs are on the rise, and training has become, you know, a little bit more expensive as well, and so. You know, if we completely understand given the timing of the request, but you know, it's probably something that we're definitely going to bring back next year if we can't get anything this year. It's going to be a more timely request next year.
And in full disclosure, we did increase the miscellaneous for each fire company by, I believe, 4,000. And then we increased fleet maintenance by, do you remember, Randy?
I don't remember that one, but the other equipment was 4,000.
Right, 4,000 for equipment, it wasn't miscellaneous, it's equipment. And then we increased, believe we increased fleet maintenance by
I think it was 5,000 each.
5,000 each?
Yeah, no, I'm not, there's no arguments there. I mean, those are all numbers that were justified based on past years, and you know, as I say, the 45,000 is somewhat different because it's kind of.
No, I know, I just want to give a full picture.
Yeah, no, I you know, as I said at the meeting, you know, I have no complaints with how the committee, and I don't think, I think certainly from Millington's point of view, and I'm sure from Stirling, we've absolutely no complaints as to how the committee has treated the fire companies, both in the apparatus, and then also the increases that we've seen for fleet maintenance and equipment. So this is just, as I say, it's a late coming request, and we completely understand if the budget's set, and we'll revisit it next year. So I just put it out there if there was any room in the.
I think that's what we need to do. I mean, because the budget for fire was up like 7.85%, which was consistent amongst all public safety. And it's just in light of all the unusual expenses that we have this year, the 3 fire trucks, we've got some other police equipment that we've got to refresh. But it's good to have a 12-month lead on that too, right? Because now we can start planning on how we absorb that, right? And what it is really. Maybe this year we can kind of start itemizing what those things are.
Oh no, I mean, we certainly do that, and so I mean, we don't need to you know, kind of dwell on this. We itemize all those costs, and we certainly.
If something comes up that's an emergency, we'll revisit it, right? Because that happens.
No, as I say, we're not going to be destitute as a result of it. It would be nice to have it, but as I say, it's late in the day, so.
Yeah.
So the budget's set, and that's we completely understand that.
Right.
Brendan, thank you. Thank you
Yes.
to both fire companies, the Millington Fire Company, the Sterling Fire Company, and Lord knows the service you do for this town, so thank you. But I think that's what Scott recommended, and I think what Brendan is saying.
And let's
is
be
the
clear, I mean,
path.
this has been a big win, big year for public safety in this town. 3 new fire trucks, right? We've got a couple of new police cars we have in the budget, some other things that we're doing to increase safety in town. But at some point too, we've got to kind of squeeze it all into a box and pass it.
That's, I agree with, Scott knows that budget better than, I can definitely say me, so I'll defer to his number working. What was the other item?
I think that was it, it was master plan and, right?
Yep.
That was all. So I think, Randy can confirm, but I believe that now we're only looking at a $15,000 increase for master plan, so I think we can make some adjustments
Yep, we'll take care of it.
to keep it at 1.8% if you're all satisfied with that as a tax increase.
So just for the public's benefit, what was the tax increase last year?
Last year was 1.67%.
1.67, so it goes from 1.67 up to 1.8. I know we added some new services this year, social services, some of the things we reorganized in OEM.
And some unanticipated costs. such as
Unanticipated costs, and again, some
Big ticket items.
some investments that we're making in public safety.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, we're getting a lot of value for that fraction of a percent.
Right, and all of the capital equipment that we're buying, and it's pretty significant, it's, around $2 million. There's no new debt incurred for any of that. So I think that's important to note. One of the things, and I don't know if you want to talk about it at this meeting, I mean, it's up to you. We had a proposal at the budget meeting by Recreation to put LED lights at Myersville Field. The new quote was, remind me.
You said we do something.
275 or 290?
The lower one was 275, the higher one was 3.
No,
Three.
290.
290, but then there was a $10,000 contingency.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to look at that. It will budget for it because that money's would be coming out of open space, the Open Space Trust Fund. I didn't know if you want to have just a general recreation discussion.
I think we should.
Right, there was,
Was the two quotes that we have, was one of them from the
Moscow,
company
yeah.
that put it
Moscow was one.
here?
the higher, Musco was the higher one at 3.
290.
Well, 290 and a $10,000 contingency.
Okay.
And then the lower one was 275. That was from a company.
Out of
NGU.
curiosity, how does that work? Is that the lowest responsible bidder? Or?
No, so these are both off co-ops, so we could pick either one. I know that Lisa, I mean, I don't want to speak for her, but she did speak at the budget meeting. She's more comfortable with Musco because she's dealt
As
with
am
them
I.
before.
Yep.
So I guess the decision for you is, A, do you want to move ahead with that? And I should say that the old poles have not come down yet just because of the wet weather. I talked to Al today. There is another piece of equipment that we're going to rent, which will help him get it down. It's a lighter piece of equipment that won't sink into the ground. So we're going to rent that piece of equipment to get them down. We've also been notified by our engineer because of the area that it's in, we have to leave the bottom, 6 feet in the ground when he takes them down until the new poles go in. Otherwise, you'll never get a permit from, I think it's DEP, to put them back in. So that's just an aside, but they're not down yet because of that. So I think you never actually made the decision that you wanted to put the lights back at Myersville Field. You had talked, Scott, about maybe moving them someplace else. Then the other thing in the budget is $91,000 for a new playground at Myersville Field. And then you had a discussion about parking. So I don't know if you want to talk about it here or at the next meeting.
Let's talk about lights for a few minutes and just kind of limit it to that for the moment.
Fine.
Because right now, what's going on with that field, 50% of the games that are played there are night games. And it's not just, Long Hill baseball, softball, it's other independent leagues and stuff like that. Which means that for tournaments and stuff, people aren't coming from out of town and visiting Long Hill. They're not going to our local businesses. Those are a draw into the town, and it's a good thing. It also means that our families are going to Greenbrook, South Plainfield, and out of town to play these games. It's basically a part of the infrastructure that we've lost now. That, in my opinion, if we don't rehabilitate it, we're less of a town than we were before. I don't mean in a dramatic way, but it's not good to lose assets. So I talked to Lisa about the two companies that proposed. The Moscow solution is more appropriate for that field. It's brighter, it's more safe. We know the vendor, they know us. They've done good work. They have a longer warranty, and they have remote sensing of the lights when they go off. They just know how to do it. So, I don't know how you want to proceed. I'm certainly in favor of doing this and doing it quickly so we can start having tournaments again down there in the fall.
So, Jack, since it's coming out of open space, could we vote on that this evening?
You would have to do an ordinance appropriating the money from open space.
Okay.
But we could introduce an ordinance in title only.
But if we pass the budget, then it's good anyway, right? Or what's faster? I don't know, assuming everybody wants the lights.
Well, we still have to do it. It's just like a capital improvement fund ordinance. So we could introduce an ordinance tonight authorizing the administrator to, pursue it and appropriating 300 and whatever. Probably should build some buffer into it to cover engineering costs and things, soft costs. And then we could adopt it at the next meeting.
And again, this is what that money's there for, right? It's 12 weeks to get the parts, 2 weeks to install. Those are the timelines. So it's 14 weeks, it's 3 months. We can get this in by August, which is ready for the fall season.
There's one thing I think I'll bring up. Scott, you might have some opinions on it, but for me, having spent time down on Myersville Field, it's not optimal from a number of perspectives. Parking, it's dangerous. It can be dangerous whenever you have a lot of people there. And so what I'm wondering, and also as was brought up in the last meeting, there aren't any bathrooms there, there aren't any bathroom facilities there, and it'll be a while before we can actually put them there. And so I'm wondering if we should look into putting those lights somewhere over at the Little League complex there. They might be, it might be better overall. I believe the field would be suitable for the games that are played right now in Myersville. Myersville would be a more of a day only type of field, but we wouldn't lose out on the night games, and so anyway, it's an idea, because I've spent time down in Myersville, and it's as I say, it has a lot of shortcomings, and to invest that kind of money is tough for me to countenance.
So to be fair, and you and I had this conversation, I like the idea of lights on Senior Field. There won't be any complaints from the neighbors. It's a 60-90 field, it's a high school sized field. The only problem is it floods very easily. And I know that's not necessarily an issue with the lights. We've seen that on the center field, American, and the flooding has never affected the lights down there. But it's also different dimensions. I don't know what that's going to do with the price quote, if they'd have to add another pole or whatever.
That's the concern, though. I figured center field or the outfield, the river's right there, so I mean, wetlands might not be able to put the.
Yeah.
I think it's not a bad idea. Logistically, I just don't know if it's possible.
I mean, we look at Myersville. I mean, I think you might have an opinion it's more mosquitoes and stuff down there. There's actually just as many in the Little League complex. I can tell you, I've got the scars to prove it. It might even be worse at times, quite actually. And parking, yes, that's suboptimal at Myersville, and I think that is something that we need to look at in the future and talk to Lisa about. We have some options down there with the basketball courts and some of the other stuff that maybe we can reconfigure at some point. But in my mind, I think the issue is ultimately in the future, it'd be great to have lights on both fields. Why wouldn't we do that, right? Because we accumulate that money. But if we don't do something, then nothing will happen. And if nothing happens, then, the quality of that program and the meaning it has to Long Hill diminishes. And I will tell you, having been in the Little League, Long Hill is admired by all the towns around us for the excellent program we have. Our Twisters tournaments, these successful baseball tournaments that we have, folks drive into that complex and they think they're in Field of Dreams, believe it or not. Right? And same thing when they're down in the swamp, down in Myersville, they're out in the country, right? So our leagues have no problems getting full participation. They have to turn teams away, right? And that brings money into town, that brings prestige to Long Hill, that strengthens our programs because the kids want to be part of it. And these are all the little platoons and the social institutions which makes this town a great place to be.
And to Brendan's point, there's no question parking has always been a challenge there. And Scott, I think you alluded to it. We should look at reconfiguring up to and including, and hopefully the tennis players out there aren't going to yell at me, maybe the tennis courts don't need to be there anymore because these are lit.
It would be the basketball court.
I understand, but we'd have to think of it holistically. And also to your point, it would be, I'm not an engineer, but I'm quite certain the lighting of Senior would be much more expensive than the lighting of Myersville.
Also, just Lisa sent me a message that she said I should let you know that Long Hill baseball field was underwater this week, but Myersville was not. They do have water issues down there, so.
I mean, we do have water issues for sure down there, but I think it's easy whenever you're kind of already decided on one location where they've always been. It's easy to kind of poo-poo all this stuff without the data. Myersville's still on the edge of the swamp, right? There have been times whenever that outfield gets very, very spongy, and sometimes you can't play on it either. And so, yeah, we had a rain event last Thursday, which was quite extreme, and a lot of places were flooded in town. But does that really preclude us from considering that field in the Little League complex, given the obvious advantages that it has? And so, if we're as a committee saying, okay, we want to have lights in one of the fields, and I'm not against having lights. I think at least what I'd like to do is maybe get some data around how many games we don't play in the Little League complex because of flooding, compared to what we have in Myersville.
If I could just say, I don't believe, and Randy can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think you need to, I said maybe you should discuss it tonight because it's part of the budget, but because we're taking the money from the Open Space Trust Fund, I don't think you need to make a decision tonight.
Right.
The capital budget doesn't get introduced until second reading of the regular budget, so that's 6 weeks away. And because the money would be coming out of the Open Space Trust Fund, it doesn't impact the budget. Correct, Randy?
That's correct. The money would be available in the Open Space Trust Fund, so you can do the ordinance at any time if that's what you want to do. I heard the discussion.
Wait, can you come up there?
I've heard the discussions, and I think you're absolutely correct. If you decide to change, go into a Little League complex, we're going to have to get those two contractors back out there, because it may increase either lights or another pole, which would obviously make a difference in the cost. So right now, we do have available the $310,000 in the Open Space Trust Fund to do Myersville and replace them with either contractor.
I think maybe something, and Randy, I don't know, because I don't think we've contemplated this until the budget meeting, the playground that Lisa's looking to replace there at Myersville. Somebody had suggested at the budget meeting, could we take that money out of open space? And is there enough? Would there be an extra $90,000 in there?
It'd be tight, but also keep in mind, we're gonna be having some insurance money reimbursement. Once we get that money, we can also look, there is a possibility of the trust fund funding some of that, meaning the recreation trust fund, funding some of that playground equipment also. So there are different, in this case, there are different income resources that can be looked at to fund that.
So currently, the replacement of the playground, or it's not the whole playground, the swing set is fairly new, about 4 years old. It was damaged in the storm, but that will be covered by insurance. It's the two play structures. Lisa said at the budget meeting that they continue to fail inspections, safety inspections. So I don't know if you want to look at that at Myersville Field holistically and not commit the money to the playground, or you want to, get it done. I mean, one way or another, if we're failing inspections, we need to do something about it. So, again, I don't think it impacts the budget if you don't decide tonight.
Yeah,
If you want to ask Lisa to come to a meeting and, you want more information about it.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, I would like to have more information, and including, some of the estimates from the contractors for doing it at the Little League complex, because there's a lot argues for the Little League complex having the fields there, and if we are going to do it at, if we end up doing it at Myersville Field, we still have the parking issue, right? And so one of the things I'd like to get some opinions from, and maybe some thought, would be take out the basketball court. I believe that's what we have there. The tennis court. Take out the tennis court and take out the playground, and make that parking, because we do have a somewhat, a potentially dangerous situation down there whenever there's a tournament or there's a lot of things going on. And so I'm wondering if freeing up as much room as we can for parking would be the prudent thing to do, rather than having, you know, the other forms of children's entertainment down there. If we're going to make it, if we're going to do it, let's really try and solve that parking problem that we have, and let's think about that. So, I mean, I would rather not do it tonight, and maybe get Lisa in and start to kind of mull some of these things
Yeah,
over.
I think we all agree we want to do something. We want to have
Yes.
a lit field
But-
back. So let's hang our hat on that right now, and then let's talk to Lisa and just explore some other options. But I will add this comment. I do think let's not turn this into a science project. Let's make a decision and move forward.
Yeah, I happen to agree. I coached softball for many years. I'm very familiar with the fields there. You and I discussed at length the possibilities of maybe, looking into putting the lights, not in Myersville, but in American Field. I think we all agree, we're gonna need lights. We need lights somewhere, but we want to decide which is the best spot, so we're not gonna discuss it now, but we're gonna leave this meeting saying, we need lights at one of those two fields, and we need to act quickly.
And I
Would
do
we
think
agree with that?
Yes, I think you're right.
The implication is, and I don't know, I don't want to put words in the mouth of the Little League or Recreation Director Lisa Scallon. I'm under the impression that their preference is Myersville Field. That may not be true, so out of respect to what Brendan's saying, I'd like to get, that's data I would like to know.
From Lisa or from the baseball league or both?
Or both?
Both.
Yeah,
Both.
From both.
baseball, softball, we talk to them all the time,
Yeah.
that's not an issue.
Because, I think, speaking for myself, I don't know whether the science project thing was kind of directed over here.
No,
but,
not at all.
as soon as I have those data, I'm ready to make a decision.
Yeah, no, and
Absolutely.
I don't think this is anything that's coming from the league. This is something that, as Lisa manages and looks over these things, we don't have a quote for the
And
exact
can we get an
specific.
estimate without a full-on quote from
Yeah.
Musco and the other?
We
Sure.
do, I mean, we have estimate, oh, you mean for the,
For
over
senior.
there?
For senior field.
Yeah, I mean, I would think so.
Of course, I made a comment that it would be much more expensive, but
Well, definitely, it's much still bigger.
I'm not an engineer, but
You're gonna need at least one more.
I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last
I
night.
mean, I think to be fair to the vendors, I think, I think each one of them are gonna wanna come out
Yeah.
and take a look.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because the soils make a difference, there's a lot of things go into
And
putting
don't
up these
forget the wires are
poles.
already in place in Myersville.
Yes.
Yeah.
They might as well ask the vendors to come out and take a look at senior while people do it in a couple of weeks, let's
Yeah,
get
all
that
right,
rolling.
so we know what to do.
All right.
good.
Okay, so then I think from a budget perspective, we're ready to introduce the budget at the next meeting. We can put some placeholders in the capital part of it. The actual capital budget, though, cannot be adopted, like I said, until the final budget is adopted, which is a month later. So that gives you some time. I think next meeting, maybe we'll discuss this again.
Yeah, it's-
You'll have some more information, so next meeting, I'll ask Lisa to come, and, hopefully she'll have some additional quotes by then, for the American?
No,
American?
senior, the big.
Senior,
Yeah.
okay. And then you can make your decisions about the playground and the field.
Yeah, for
Fair
those
enough.
keeping score at home, the senior field is the larger field all the way near the river. American is the lit field in the middle, right? And National is the
One
one
box.
closer towards Valley,
Yeah, by Armstrong Truck.
which is not lit. So American is lit.
Okay.
All right.
Do you have everything you need?
Randy, thank
Do
you.
we need anything
Okay.
else from Randy while he's here? Nope, thank you, Randy.
No problem.
Thank you.
All right, let's see, old, new business. Any old or new business from any members on the committee? All right, seeing none. Announcements, well, this is on the announcement, but the plastic bag ban goes into effect May 4th, correct, Guy?
Yeah, somewhere
So,
around
yeah,
there.
so just be in mind, it's been all over the place, just keep that in mind, the plastic bag ban, so you might wanna start buying or thinking of alternatives when you go shopping anywhere. Another thing not on the announcements, next Wednesday, I don't know what the date, what's the next Wednesday's date? Whatever, the 20th.
20th.
At the senior center, back by popular demand, Ally Robertson is coming to the senior center. She's a attorney that works for the Morris County Surrogates Office. So it's a program that's open all the seniors and to the public. What Ally's going to do is basically talk about what the Surrogates Office does, the importance of having wills, power of attorneys, that kind of stuff. So It's going to be very educational, informative. I know seniors are looking forward to it, and I believe they said they haven't had somebody from the surrogate's office there in 10 years. And there's a lot of general questions she's going to be able to answer for many people in town. So 11 a.m. Senior Center on Wednesday. We have Allie Robertson from the Morris County Surrogate's office giving a general presentation. The regular announcements, big day on Saturday. We have, starting at 8 a.m., the fishing derby, the PBA fishing derby at 8 a.m. at the lake. And you can take a break, come over here for the Easter egg hunt, which was rescheduled because of weather last week. It turns out Lisa nailed that to a T, because I believe it was supposed to start at 10 a.m. and it basically started downpouring at 10 a.m. So almost perfect timing. So good job by Lisa, whoever else called that. So then you can go back to the fishing derby, and I think, Chief, I could be wrong, Sterling Hotel or some other local business donate food? Correct. Yes, the Sterling Hotel, maybe some other local business donate food to the participants of the fishing derby, and it's always a fun time. And you can meet a lot of the local officers who enjoy interacting with the kids and the other members of the public. We have the street fair, which Dennis will guarantee, Sunshine 4 on April 24th, 10 a.m. in Sterling. The library is doing a Shred It fundraiser, and as Al mentioned last meeting, don't put your shredding in the recycling. They can't accept it. So if you want any documents shred, this is a perfect opportunity. Bring them down. It's a library fundraiser, April 30th, 10 to 2. And finally, this is from the Shade Tree Commission, the New Jersey Tree Recovery Campaign. They're providing free tree saplings. They'll be available at the DPW on April 30th. So after you're done shredding, you go down to the DPW or vice versa, and you get a free tree sapling for all residents, April 30th, 9 to 12 at the DPW. And also, aside from holidays, the DPW is open from 9 to 12, at least through when? Labor Day?
8 o'clock.
September. 8 o'clock, I would stand corrected. But the sapling's only available at 9. So 8 a.m. to 12, DPW is open for all your recycling and other needs. Thank you.
Mayor, I did have one other announcement I
Go
forgot.
for
Starting on May 4th, I believe, people's recycling will be looked at a little more closely. We've been requested by the county to help them look at people's recycling if if there's contaminated jars or bottles, or there's plastic bags in people's recycling. Starting May 4th, they will get a note put on the recycling can or someplace around there saying that it was rejected and that the company can't take it because it costs them more and it will end up costing the town more. Our recycling company told us they're going to start charging us if we don't, clean up our recycling. So our code enforcement officer and our DPW director are going to go around and the first week and look at people's recycling and put the stickers on. And when there will be a number on there, hopefully that will say if your recycling wasn't picked up, it's because you have something that's not allowed in there. And hopefully people will, catch on. And, we've been saying for years that you can't put plastic bags in recycling. So hopefully people will get the message. But it's going to start on May 4th. So every week for 5 weeks, I guess. So every district is covered. They'll be going around and looking at the recycling.
And Nancy, to your point, the county's not being heavy-handed, we're not being heavy-handed. If you put something in your recycling that is not permitted, the whole thing gets thrown away as garbage, Al, right? And so there's a very good reason. The intent of recycling is a good intent, but if you put something in your recycling that's not recyclable, the good intent goes away.
So keep in mind on that. And Al was also tell us the Morris County Municipal, what is it, whatever.
MUA.
MUA who does the recycling actually is going to be at the street from the 24th handing out reusable bags. So you can get a free bag there. Plus, if you have any recycling questions, we're there to educate the public as well. And Al's got some things in the works. We'll be announcing in the next couple of months some new programs we're working on. Any other announcements?
Yep, right here.
Go ahead.
Boy Scout Troop 56, flower sale.
Ooh.
Friday, April 29th through Sunday, May 1st. It's going to be in front of the Valley Mall. All kinds of flowers, hanging baskets, things for Mother's Day. So be there or be square.
Guy?
Thank you, Scott. And the Elks Townwide Garage Sale is May 7th, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. I know they've advertised in the local papers, and it's often on Facebook for those who go on Facebook.
All right, any other announcements? Seeing none, we'll open up the meeting to the public. Anybody from the public has any questions, comments, issues you want to raise, come on up. You guys can race up, whoever's faster.
Go ahead, Chuck. You go first.
Charles Aronowitz, Millington. 2 observations to start. I'm confused on the planning board, what the budget is and the dollars tonight discussion. I've been asking for months to see a schedule, a task plan, and a budget. So God bless you on how you try to budget 15, 20, 40 without a plan. Projects fall behind one day at a time. It's been 8.5 years. Second observation, we can't take the lights down at Myersville, but it's not flooded, but we can play at the Little League fields. I don't understand if why we can't get the lights down if it's not flooded. So just leave it at that. I suggested at last meeting we adopt a new culture, putting the residents and taxpayers first. I spent 40 years in change management. One of the first reaction is defensiveness to that comment. Attitudinal and cultural change is very difficult to accomplish. So if I offended anyone by trying to adopt that new culture, I apologize. But one of the reactions tonight is a defensive mechanism. Oh, we get Oprah's out in 3.08 days. Let me tell you, I'm a mathematician by background. My experience with Oprah's is 3 standard deviations away from that number. So I'd love to see it. If I've got to Oprah it to get it, I'll do it. But that's not the main discussion tonight for me. My main discussion tonight is a thing called the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, also called the COVID Stimulation Package, or just the American Rescue Plan. Our renowned senators, Mr. Menendez and Mr. Booker, said that this town will receive $820,000 or thereabouts. I believe there were recommendations to jointly work with Warren Township on stormwater management with some of these monies. My question for you tonight, and I'd like an answer, over the past months, how much has been spent, and where have we spent these dollars, and where does the Township Committee plan to spend the remaining $800,000 plus from the American Rescue Plan? And I'd like an explanation tonight on the $828,000.
We've spent zero.
I can answer that.
Go ahead.
Great. So so far we spent 0, but we've only gotten half of it so far. So we did dedicate it in this year's budget under public safety equipment, which is one of the acceptable ways that you're allowed to use the money. So it was applied to the capital.
And that was 400,000?
It's a little over 4. I'm thinking it's like 447, but I'm not entirely sure of the number.
So it's 447. So if it's half,
447.
then we got close to 900.
We only got half. You only get it 1 per year. So we got half last year. We'll get half this year.
When you say public safety, what did that get? The 447,000 got allocated to what?
To the capital budget.
I understand that. What line item in the capital budget?
I don't believe, Randy is not here anymore, so.
Oh, goodness, Randy left.
Yeah, so I don't believe that it is allocated specifically to one thing, right? It's not just one thing. I believe you apply it to the budget and it covers part of the public safety equipment that we're buying.
I strongly recommend, when we get the other half of the, now it's 900,000, or thereabouts, that you put it towards the major issue in this town. Guess what it is? Stormwater management. Have we talked to Warren? They're getting 1.8 million. We're getting half that, 9. Is that an issue? Is stormwater management an issue in this town?
Absolutely, but Warren doesn't have to share their money with us. I don't know.
No, they announced they want to work together as a team to solve some of the water mitigation issues in this town and their town. We butt up to the river, do we not? Are we not adjacent to Warren, or am I confused?
No, you're right.
Thank you.
I,
Can this committee commit the other $447,000 to stormwater management tonight?
no, we're not committing money we don't have yet to a project we don't even know. You know, $400,000 is not gonna, it's gonna be, no pun intended, a drop in the bucket for stormwater management around here.
Well, they've got 1.8, Warren, so there you go. You add it up, it's 2.2.
Well, like I said, I can't comment on that. We haven't had any discussion with Warren. The mayor knows where we are. The township attorney knows where we are.
You know, it's interesting when I said about putting the taxpayer first. This is the first time we're hearing that we got this 800, 900,000. Now we're putting 447,000.
Hold on a second, that's
Oh,
nonsense.
yes, it is.
That's nonsense.
You
That
never
was-
said
that
it. You never told us. Be honest.
I gave-
Defensive
I gave an
mechanisms
update.
apply when you have change and resistance to change, Mayor, Deputy Mayor. I told you that opening comments.
He announced that last year.
I gave an update after a meeting with Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill. Very specific, very detailed.
And when was that?
I have no idea.
I figured. I must have missed that one.
It was last year.
A long time ago.
A long time ago, yeah. So I'd like you to reconsider in your executive sessions to put the $447,000 that we're getting to stormwater management.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Thank you.
God bless you as well, Chuck.
Anyone else from the public?
Good evening, everyone. Frank Liberato, 589 Heritage Road. Thank you for all your efforts working on the budget. I know you guys put a lot of time into it, and I'm sure it's very stressful trying to get everything where it needs to be. I had two things I wanted to ask. I didn't want to cut into my 3 minutes too quickly. Could we get an update, or do you want to give an update at home to the residents, update on the radio telecommunications subcommittee, just kind of
There is
where
no
things
radio telecommunications subcommittee.
or the committee with Councilman Ray and Councilman Lavender
There is no
and the chief?
committee.
Or it's the, not a subcommittee, it's a,
What we did, we put together, at the last meeting, we asked if there was a, if
No,
if-
Guy appointed the committee ad hoc.
Guy?
or ad hoc.
No.
I didn't use the
Was there
correct
a coup?
terminology.
Sounded like it.
Yeah.
But it's, obviously you can't be on the committee.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, I can because it's communications.
No, it's not. It's police, so you can't be on the committee. And you're on,
Jack,
you're a
is
member of
that-
the public, and we didn't.
Jack,
Guy made-
could you opine on that?
Yeah, I've given my opinion that Brendan can participate in the overall discussions of the communications, but can't be on a committee and meet with the chief. But in any event, I think a committee is more appropriate for how to respond to the problem, how to do the coverage. At this point in time, I think that's been resolved by the chief and others
Yep.
in town with the Tango system.
That's what I was
Right, but I think what
Yes.
we said, what we discussed at the last meeting was putting together a committee to look into what it would take to bring some of those, to bring that dispatch centre back into town, and because we've had ongoing problems or issues with the county over the past number of years. Right now, it wasn't a county necessarily. It wasn't a county solution. It was brought to us by Chief Naga as far as Tango goes. And so and every time we have an issue, we say, well, let's take it back in house, and then we say, well, it'll be too expensive, but we've never looked at it. And so that committee that we put together, I was certainly, I didn't know who actually appointed it or said it, but I thought it was in general agreement that we were going to look into other ways of if we have to bring the dispatch centre back in-house, at least we have an idea of what it will take. That's it.
Actually, I have an answer for you. After that guy formed the committee or the not committee, I sent Oprah requests out to a couple of towns. I know Madison had dispatch, and I know Kenilworth did for Utola.
Yes.
Obviously, Madison still hasn't responded to me, and that was over 10 days ago.
Kenilworth responded, okay.
Kenilworth responded to me. The chief sent us a nice email.
Very
right
good.
on point. He gave us not all the information because I didn't ask for enough, but he gave us the employee costs of it, and I believe.
Plainfield.
And
South Plainfield as well.
And we got information from South Plainfield, and Nancy's already contacting, Madison's gonna contact the administrator, and we're trying to find, if you know other towns that have it, let us know, and we'll contact them and get their costs, because
Absolutely.
aside from the employees, there's also the cost of the infrastructure and the equipment and leasing and things like that.
There's all added costs, and
Well,
obviously
yes.
you need to put numbers together, just like you're doing with the lights. You get quotes and you figure out what things are cost, and then you can make a good educated decision on what's best for the community.
Correct, so it's getting done. I mean, she's following up with Kenilworth, at least for the infrastructure costs, because we know that the employee cost of it. The chief sent a very detailed email very quickly. Madison, we're following up, South Plainfield, sure, had information.
And
like I
he
said-
would also be willing to, and he said you guys are welcome to come anytime down there, or come up here if you want to see the facility.
I believe it
That's
works, I don't
open
need
to
to
you.
see it. But he said, but we're getting more information, so it is,
Great.
we are getting, and if you know other towns that have it, please let us know.
Absolutely.
And we're more than happy to get the information. I
Absolutely.
asked somebody else, I know Union City has it, but they have 35 dispatchers.
Yeah, that's a lot bigger
That's
than
not
what
happening.
we are.
But the thing there, Matt, that's one aspect of it, right? Yet what we were actually looking, or what I was more interested in looking at was, what type of infrastructure could we actually bring back here? Because technology's changed since it was taken out, and so that's what I was interested in taking a look at.
Well, that can be part of the request of these other towns. The towns that have it,
Yeah, but they could have the same system that we had before it was stripped out, right?
I can't tell you the answer to that.
But what I'm saying is that we actually have, who knew Tango Tango, right? Existed, and it's an application of cellular technology to potentially solve our issues locally. And what else exists out there? And is that a solution that can be brought in? And so that's why I wanted to explore the other options. It wasn't necessarily on the end of personnel costs. We can pretty much, once we've established what the infrastructure looks like, then we're going to backfill with how many people we actually need to do it. And I think Madison has one person at a time working in their dispatch centre, and they share it with the county as far as 911s, and so there's a lot of ways to slice and dice this, but we just don't have any idea. And just going out to towns and asking for personnel costs, it's one aspect of it.
Yeah,
And
of course, I
the important part
agree.
is the infrastructure.
Yeah, that's what we
which is
gotta
what I
find out
wanted to
next.
do.
So, I mean, Scott, you understand that stuff, and if you and Vic want to, because you're police liaisons.
There's a lot of different ways. So then one of the other ways I think we had a conversation was, how do you hybridize it with the county as the infrastructure? Because if the county radio infrastructure gets better with the radios, and they're building in the Tango infrastructure to that as well, then we have a delivery mechanism, and we're really talking about people, butts in seat here in Long Hill.
Correct.
To augment the county dispatching, and then you get into, well, how many hours a day do you do that, or?
Exactly.
Right, and so, it's hard to define, and there's a lot of different permutations, is what I'm getting at.
Right, and so I guess the question is, right, that, and I'm since this is something that's been near and dear to my heart, because I'm involved as a first responder, I'm perfectly willing to, subject to what Jack said, work on communications, because it's something that I know the importance of it, and I know the shortcomings of the present system because I've experienced them, and so. I think it's prudent that we thought it was prudent. At the last meeting that we look into some of these other technological advances and how they could be brought back here. And so, rather than rather than Vic, because he's police liaison working on it, I would like to work on it. Originally, we were Scott and I were looking into it, and I don't see why that isn't necessarily a problem if I just don't meet with the chief whenever we're talking about some of these technological advances.
I'm all for looking into bringing dispatch, back into town and taking a look at if it would be effective, cost effective, and the best alternative, for safety and cost for our residents. That's no doubt. And I think that we're all there, that we would all be willing to look into it. However, in the meantime, I'm under the impression that the Tango system is a bona fide fix for the gaps in coverage that we have, and as we are in the process of looking at, bringing the possibility of bringing dispatch back into town, we have a safe and effective solution in the meantime. And that's not to say that we would ever find that bringing dispatch is the best thing to do. We'll definitely look into it. But if that's not where we go based on numbers and the information available, I'm under the impression that Tango is a good solution along with what we have in the county. Is that not true, or?
Yeah, I think the Tango situation is old news, right? We have it, it's been implemented, and it seems to be working. The discussion is more the larger discussion of where are we in our interactions with the county whenever on this particular issue. History tells us that we've had issues, right? And one of the things that we've always thought to do as well, we could bring it in-house. Well, right. Maybe we can't bring it in-house, and that was something I would like to chase down, because if we look at it and we say, you know what, even with advances in technology, this is just way too expensive for us, then that's an option that we can just take off the table. And that is the only thing that was being proposed last week, was to look at, are there other systems out there that we could utilize to bring in here if our historical issues with the county continue? That's all.
I'm in agreement with you.
And Vic,
I'm honestly in agreement. I think you just said it a lot better than I do, as usual. But I'm in agreement.
I think there are two phases to this. One is the short-term cleaning up the contract with the county.
And that's what we're doing, yeah.
And then if you want to look into long-term solutions and the possibility of bringing dispatch back in-house.
Yeah, I think I came across the wrong way. I'm in agreement with you.
Right. I think the other one's a project. It's just a project.
Right.
That's all it is, because
I agree.
at some point we're going to cut with some committee somewhere along the line is going to say, you know what, the county's not doing the right thing. We should look to bring this in-house. Right. That's what's going to happen. And so I would like it that we could have done our homework and said, you know what, that's a viable option, or there's a piece of paper that says, nope, this committee looked into it, and it's here's all the options that they looked at, and it's just not something that we can do. It would be valuable.
I agree.
That's all. And that's all that was proposed last week.
And Councilman Velez, the only other thing I would contribute to that part of the conversation is, yes, Tango is a great solution, but even talking to them, if you talk to them directly, it needs to be part of a redundancy system. So the county system, obviously the radio system, needs to get up to par also. So if that app does go down on Tango, you're still able to run vice versa. So you have a parallel system. So you have some redundancy. I'm sure, the chief can elaborate on that, at that point. But I think that's just something to consider. I don't believe Tango standalone is solely the system totally by itself. I think that's what the understanding needs to be.
Yeah, I think let's not conflate things. We pay a dollar amount for a service every year, and that service is delivery of communications, which is technical infrastructure, and labor, which is the dispatchers, right? The people who pull everything together. And so as we look at what other alternatives they are, we've got to look at the infrastructure. That could involve a capital outlay, not insignificant, and then technical debt that goes along with that, operating costs, and then labor costs as well, right? And there's a lot of different ways to do that, right? Or There could be separating out the labor and the technical costs with the county and using our own labor. That's another option maybe that we could look at. Or there could be just simply layering labor on top of the county costs, right? But at the end of the day, we gotta look at the county and say, A, are we getting the reliability of service? Is the technical infrastructure delivering? B, are we getting the responsiveness of the service providers, the labor, right? Those two things have to be looked at, right? Did I say it the right way?
You got it. I mean, that's the overall thing, and, you know, that's all I'm discussing. And as I stated in the last meeting, I'm willing to give my time, whatever you need help with. And from, you know, the way I phrased it, Mayor, if you took offense to me saying that it was a subcommittee or what it was, I was just relating to what I thought it was called from the last meeting. And as a resident,
I blame him.
By the way, I'm not letting the committee you said.
At the end of the day, Councilman, I'm here just to help.
It was directed at me, not you.
And I'm not here to, create an issue. I'm just here for what's in the best interest of the public, best interest as a resident, and just, continue this thing moving forward. And as, Councilman Lavender said, I didn't want things conflated. He really cleared what I was trying to drive at.
I think we all agree we're in a dialogue that's gonna be ongoing.
That's it. It's
We don't wanna
not
send the
something
wrong
that's a quick
message to the
fix
county.
overnight.
We're not bailing out anytime, right? We've got a service that works.
Yeah.
So
So
it's moving
that's
along.
what I was saying, so that's why I want to just kind of understand it. And the only other thing I was going to say, because all of you ate up a lot of my 3 minutes, was I think what was brought up about security cameras at the Capitol meeting on Monday regarding like some of the cameras at the park that weren't working. I think surveillance cameras are very important, for monitoring, especially what happened in the subway in New York City yesterday, and their cameras weren't operational. And I think it's important to take a look at all of our cameras in our public buildings or schools, make sure they are operational, but most importantly, does county have access or police have real access to those in the event you have an emergency like that happened in the city, so that if there's something, God forbid, going on here or at the schools, I don't know that. That's something that should be discussed behind closed doors, but it's just a question that, from a responsiveness, first responders, that type of stuff, that hopefully you have our CCTV system somehow tied in so the police have real-time access in an emergency. And if we did have dispatch center at home, here at headquarters, you would have a body watching the cameras 24/7, because I assume the cameras that we currently have are really merely for after-the-fact review and not monitored by a live body. Like the county's not sitting up there watching our cameras, I would assume.
Yeah, I've had Lisa Scanlon call and holler at me before while I was at the park. So there is some live monitoring.
But she's not here 24/7, so.
That's
you know.
all internet-based now.
Yeah, right, but as
They're like
far as.
granny cams.
Okay, so my point there being is then the police, I would assume then would have access in the event of an issue where they can see in real time if they're responding to something like what was going on in the city. That was my concern, and obviously, I don't want you discussing that in public to give that away to anybody, but I think it's for a discussion
The
with the
idea is
chief.
plausible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to make sure all that's in place before, God forbid.
No doubt.
We want people to.
Absolutely.
But as far as
The
schools,
deterrent.
Jack, correct me if I'm wrong, as far as schools are concerned,
That's their business.
that's
We
not.
have
to
no
be
control,
dis-
right?
Okay, but
We
the
can certainly
public
encourage them.
buildings,
Right.
this building, the parks, that type of stuff. But there again, if we had our own dispatch center, and you had somebody sitting in the seat 24/7, they can also be monitoring it and actually relay stuff to the police if something's going on, like in the middle of the night when Lisa's sleeping and not watching to see if you're causing a ruckus out on the field.
I was out there during a lightning storm. She-
Yeah. And that's all I have for this evening. So
Thank you.
thank you. Unless
Thank
the chief
you.
had something.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So real quick, on the radio issue, so I'm clear, so there is no committee working on the potential of regaining our dispatch?
No, there can be a committee, it's gotta be reconstituted. For example, you or somebody, a designee from the department obviously has to be there, Scott or Vic or both of them. And then obviously we could do, like if Brendan wants to do background information, contacting tech companies and things like that, so be it.
I'm fine with being on it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You have the two liaisons, you guys are the end users, and if
So-
Brendan wants to do the background, he just can't physically meet with you guys, but he can get
I think I
information.
can, but the thing here is, right, As I say, this has been something that I've brought to the fore on multiple meetings. And it's something as a first responder, as I said, I've experienced, and I have a real reason to make sure that we have everything that we need as first responders. And so, as such, there's absolutely no prohibition to me being on this committee. The only prohibition is that I don't meet with in the same room as the chief, and that is something that we can take care of. As of the last meeting, Scott and I were working on it together, and so I want to be on that committee. Vic, I don't think you've ever touched any of our radios, had any issues with any of the radios that we use as first responders. Is that right? And I'm not trying to be disrespectful.
No. I thought I would be on that committee in addition to you.
Well, there's only 3 of us. There's only 2 of us can be on it.
Then I'm certainly not looking to bump you out of your spot. You're definitely more familiar with it than I am. That's for sure. And I think you can you would be able to talk to Mr. English from the emergency squad, both fire, anything other than having direct communication about it with the chief. I have no problem with it. When I suggested that I was okay with it, I didn't realize it would be bumping you.
So I defer to legal on this because, like I said, I don't make the conflict.
Because I know I could be, I could add to the committee if it was appropriate, but if not, I would defer to you.
Right, legal is spoken, right, and Jack, because it's a communications issue.
But
you told me you just stated it. I don't have you don't have. It's not something that I can be precluded from because of a conflict, and it's public safety. Because it all comes together.
That's
first
the problem.
responder safety and it's public safety.
Well, I don't think you can communicate with the chief directly, either in person or by email or anything else, as part of this committee. I think that's where your conflict arises. I think you could certainly participate in the background, send a representative to the meetings, but I don't think you should be communicating with the chief because I think you have a conflict. And I think I've said that to you before, too. I don't like discussing conflicts in public, but that's...
We're going to discuss some conflicts coming up here soon, so you're going to have to correct me if I step out of line. But
I just don't understand this particular aspect of it. I don't see how I honestly don't see how I have a conflict on this. This is all about public safety. It's all about first responder safety. And I don't see why I should be precluded from participating in something like that, but where I actually have first-hand valuable input. It's not going to benefit anybody in my family. It's not. It's going to benefit public safety.
It is not.
That's it.
But I think our discussions had to do with whether or not you could, for instance, vote on the county contract clarifications and things like that. I do think there's a problem with your being on a committee with the chief from a conflict because your son is employed and reports to the chief. As I said, I'd rather discuss these things in private, but I don't have any choice at this point in time.
Look, let me just give an update real quick. Sorry to cut
I'm sorry,
you.
Chief. Go ahead, Chief.
It seems like we were given a direction at the last meeting. Now it seems that other people are working on this project as well, right? So I invested quite a bit of time talking to different vendors, L3 Harris, numerous times, and also the FCC. So when we're looking at pricing for infrastructure, it's a complete waste of time, and I'll tell you why. In discussion with FCC, Long Hill gave up all rights to licensing and frequencies. We own nothing. So that puts us in a completely different scenario as it pertains to infrastructure. So if you do get pricing from South Plainfield, Madison, it's not going to, it has to be specific and unique to Long Hill Township.
But let me ask you, so that would mean we'd have to get FCC channel, then do it? Because
And
we don't have anything, they already have that.
The only thing they were able to look on file, there's a specific number unique, an identifier unique to Long Hill Township. And the only thing that came up on file was 2 licenses from the library. And when you look further, he said these were basically just because of the the Wi-Fi signal they were putting out and the extent that it was going out, but it has nothing to do with radio communications.
So then we'd have to somehow get back on that, is what you're saying?
Well, so that was the next question, and he said pretty much the state scooped up all 800 frequencies, the county scooped up all 700 frequencies. So for the type of system that we would need, his advice was that it really wasn't going to happen. So we're forced to go to something that's hybrid, like a cellular type of coverage, either through FirstNet or through Tango Tango. And we can still utilize Tango Tango through FirstNet, but so that kind of minimizes our abilities, but also minimizes our costs as far as what would be required for infrastructure. I wasn't prepared for this tonight. I didn't know it was going to be a point of discussion, but I do have the contacts that I have at the FCC and L3 Harris to share with you in an email if you would like. So just keep that in mind if you're out seeking information from different municipalities.
Okay, so you guys understand what that means, right?
You can't get on the airways, basically,
Nope.
through there.
But if there's a way to do this just with cellular signal,
It can be done.
it can be done,
Okay, that makes
right?
sense.
But, that's not something you want to necessarily just jump right into until you analyze the pros and cons of it.
L3 Harris is currently doing that with other municipalities, so they do have some experience with strictly cellular.
Cellular only?
What is that company?
FirstNet?
No, we say something.
Oh,
Harris.
L3 Harris.
What's that?
So it's a, it was actually initially started as a military.
Harris,
Yeah.
big company.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a
Around a while.
huge
Missiles, all
outfit.
that
that-
stuff.
All right, thank you.
There's two other matters I'd like to bring up. I don't know if it should have been brought up under new business or comment, but I sent you gentlemen an email back on March 28th. Did you all receive that email regarding employee raises?
Yeah, we can't discuss them in public because if the rice people.
Right, I'm not going to discuss any names.
Okay,
But
you'll be on it.
The process that was used, right, I never intended for this meeting to be an arena to air any grievances, but due to the lack of response, I have to bring this up front and center. Do any of you want to respond to that email right now, or?
I can respond to it, that we deliberated in public and private exec session. That's private communications about employees in general, and we made a decision, and that was the decision.
Okay, so then I'm going to urge the public to request it through Oprah, my email to you gentlemen, and also to request it under the common law. And then they can kind of figure out
Just a
what's
copy of your
inspired.
email?
Copy of my email.
Oh, all right.
Is that something that could be released, Mr. Pigeon?
Did
No
you
names
name-
mentioned in that email?
Did you name employees in the email?
No, sir.
Then I would not release it, or I'd certainly redact their names.
There is no names mentioned, but can they receive under common law?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the last part.
Can they receive it under common law, right to common law?
The employees?
No, the email that I sent.
Well, who's the receiver, is what he's asking.
The committee is the receiver, right? So I sent it
No,
to you.
who do you
gentlemen.
want to,
Yeah, who do you want to?
I'm suggesting that the public gets a hold of the email communication that was sent to you.
Under common law, they would not, because it mentions personnel.
It doesn't. I made it clear to stay away from names in that email.
It may be intra-agency deliberative materials.
Okay.
I,
If that's your position, you're legal counsel, so we'll move forward on any other avenue. Back on March 31st, I sent an email out requesting reimbursement, detailing all the facts of what the reimbursement was about. On April 1st, I received a denial from the Township Administrator / QPA stating specific facts or reasons, purchasing laws, as it relates to why I was denied. It was on recommendation of the QPA / Administrator to forward a resolution to the Township Committee to bring transparency to the matter. I did so. Following that, I received an email from the Township Clerk on April 7th, advised me that the resolution was not going to be placed on the agenda with no reason specified. Since that email, I have not received any communication from the committee or the clerk regarding why that was denied. So the facts of the case are, we were given a $2,000 purchase order for Casey's Furniture Store on Route 22 for a table for the break room and a conference room table, and a chair for one of our administrative assistants, 2 chairs. We went to Casey's Furniture Supply Store multiple times and found nothing of use to us. Damaged goods that were, single table was roughly $1,485. By the time we calculated what we were gonna receive, it was gonna be an amount of $3,800. So I took to other avenues, and one of the avenues that I utilized was Facebook Marketplace, at which time I located all the furniture that we needed and paid for it out of pocket in the amount of $820. And there's documentation of the transaction or the communication between me and the sellers. We went and acquired the equipment, installed it in-house with some assistance from Township employees to get it into the building. I then sought to get reimbursement for $820. In the resolution, or the proposed resolution, I identified what transpired, identified that a purchase order was done in the amount of $2,000, and was looking for that to be returned back to the facility renovation line item. I received no response or explanation to why it was denied by the committee, or why it wasn't even put on a resolution for sake of transparency before you gentlemen and also the public. So I'd ask you to state your opinion or position regarding the denial of reimbursement.
Well, first, as to the agenda, that came as a late, there was 3 things police related on the agenda that day. There was an in-house, I believe it was a promotion of one of the officers. There was the chief of police convention, and then you added that later.
That's not correct.
Well, that's all, I saw the email you sent. It was like 4 o'clock on Friday.
It was Thursday in the afternoon.
Okay, well, we did the agenda. We had the meeting earlier that day. I mean, Jack was there, Nancy. It's a typical meeting you have with the mayor. We did it, and you came after. The other 2 items were on there on the original agenda. Second is I spoke to both police liaisons, and I explained to them why you couldn't be reimbursed $820, and I'm sure they had conversations with you about it. They did have conversations about you why you couldn't get reimbursed, correct?
No direct conversation.
Well, it's illegal. That's why you can't get
settlement.
reimbursed.
Well, it's illegal because the amount needs to be encumbered in advance, right? Which it was technically encumbered in advance for a different vendor.
It was, yes, and if you wanted to do it, somewhere else, whether it's Casey's, whether it's Raymore and Flanagan, wherever it is, you'd have to come back, encumber money, and then, like, if it wasn't an approved vendor, if it was Facebook Marketplace, let's play this out. If it was Facebook Marketplace, and say, for example, I'm not saying anything was not above board, it was checked that you can go to Randy and/or the QPA and say, hey, look, I found XYZ, you can say anywhere, a garage sale, my neighbor's selling, a Facebook Marketplace, whatever it is, and then you get permission from them, then there would be a resolution from us approving you in advance of doing it. And that didn't happen here.
No, but you're also familiar with my concerns regarding the budgeting process and the delays that are involved, right?
That budgeting process, you had the whole budget meeting on
Purchasing
Monday.
process, I'm sorry, purchasing process.
There's always been an issue. However, you already spent, I believe they gave, but prior to that, I think you bought at least, what, $7,000 worth of furniture from Casey's?
Right, we spent less than one display cabinet that was recently purchased.
I understand that, but the display cabinet was purchased through the proper channels. It's not what you bought or how much you spent, it's the procedure. And in government, it's different. You know that. At home, or if you have an office, like if Victor went and bought something for his personal office, he could do that. But if in government, unfortunately, things grind slowly, and you can't just buy things. You can buy things, you might not get reimbursed for them.
Okay. For the record, the email was sent April 7th, which is Thursday at 4:29 p.m.
I believe you. That's accurate, yeah.
So there was nothing that, per your rules, I sent it timely.
Yes, but then again, you couldn't put that issue on because of what I just told you. You can't get reimbursed for it. I checked with, not that you have care, but the QPA in town, the qualified purchasing agent who went to class, took a test, and has a state license. I checked to the CFO, Randy, who also has a state license, been doing this over 30 years. Both said no. I asked the township attorney, who has been here longer than all of us, and Jack probably has over 40 years advising governments. He said no. I checked with 2 to 3 different township attorneys at my office who only do government or municipal work to combine between Jack well over 100 years. Both of them, or all 3 of them, said no. I checked with Ray Sarinelli. I sent him an email, and I believe Mr. Velez sent it to you. I talked to Mr. Sarinelli Friday afternoon. I wrote him an email and said, hey, can you please explain our conversation? And can you put in writing so I can explain to the other members of the committee why you can't do this? And he said, New Jersey's regulations require all municipalities to have an accounting and financial reporting system as well as internal control structure. The township has adopted their own standard operating procedures and internal control structure in the finance department in order to comply with these regulations. The internal control structure is important for a number of reasons, but most importantly, it protects the township from fraud and abuse. Additionally, ensures adequate funds are available to make purchases, as well as promotes the highest level of transparency to both the council and the public. Internal controls are designated to require certain procedures be followed in a particular order. While this makes purchasing more difficult, it ensures accountability. A reimbursement would put the expenditure of the funds prior to those procedures and would create an exposure for the township. I would recommend that township and state purchasing procedures be followed in all cases. I've included a link below to New Jersey Statute 4A:5-17, which deals with purchasing and payment of claims. As you can see, a reimbursement for an expense incurred would not fall within the requirements. And if you have any more questions, we can talk to him. And I know, Guy knows Ray Sarinelli. I believe he's an accountant, he's an auditor, and those are experts. So after consulting with 7 or 8 different people who know more than me about this, it's the only conclusion you could come to. It's not permissible. I'm sorry, it's nothing personal, but it's not permissible.
Gotcha.
If Al did it, if Nancy did it, we'd get the same answer.
So you're confident no other purchases in this town have been conducted outside of proper procurement procedures?
I didn't say that. I'm saying this specific procedure.
All right.
That's what I'm saying.
So when that's brought forward, we can address it, that people have conducted purchases without getting a requisition put in, and then later on it's done.
I can also tell you this, that I remember, because I saw emails that at one point you have a procurement card, which obviously you're allowed to have, and you had to use it for certain things for the police department, for an advertisement or something like that. And there's a certain limit on all the procurement cards, whether it be you, Al, Lisa, whoever has them, there's a limit. And sometimes things come up where you need something and the procurement card's out, and you get permission in advance to do it, which you had on several occasions. And however, approximately 2 weeks prior to this purchase, I know the administrator sent an email to the department, I don't know if it was you or Andrea or whoever, but somebody over there, I'm not saying Andrea because she might be copied on it, was the email basically said, hey, I'm approving that, whatever the purchase was you guys needed, which you knew about in advance.
For TAC mics for the Tango Tango
Yes,
system.
exactly, that's what it was. It was something you needed for the Tango Tango. She said, okay, you need to order them, you did. And she said, hey, by the way, in the future, if you use your own money, or being personal money, meaning credit card, cash, or whatever, do so at your own peril because it might not be reimbursed. And that was before this purchase was made.
Right, and then we were given direction to bring it before you by way of resolution, which you didn't even allow for it to be on resolution.
But you already spent the money.
Right, but to seek reimbursement, I was told to put it before resolution.
I said you could ask.
Yes.
Didn't say they would do it. I said you could ask
I
them.
never said you said you can do it.
Would you like me to read it?
I never said you said they would approve the resolution.
Oh.
I'm
No,
directing-
I said
I'm
you could
directing my
ask them
comments
to
the
put it
committee.
on.
I'm directing my comments to the committee. So-
Can I just make a quick interjection here?
Sure.
This is where I bear issue. I feel sincerely that the chief went above and beyond in this situation, and he, rather than just getting a cheapo set from, Office Depot, he went out of his way to make sure we got a good quality set at a very discounted price that's going to last for many, many, many years to come. It's probably a set nicer than most of us have in our homes. Not only did he search it out in good faith, the money was encumbered prior. He also picked it up, didn't have it till he had to go pick it up. It is heavy as heck, and then he had to carry it and assemble it in the police station. And I understand that there may be some type of a technical step that may not have been followed, but I feel as if the chief acted on the best interests of Long Hill Township and his force and his police department when he did so, and that's where I'm struggling with the situation here.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know I speak for everybody in this room, frankly. The chief's integrity is beyond reproach. It's highly commendable. I will say, to what the mayor pointed out, unfortunately, government can get very cumbersome and lengthy for things, and more expensive, frankly, whether you talk about bid thresholds or prevailing wage for government projects. That said, I agree with Committeeman Veleza. I fully appreciate that it puts the town in an awkward situation because certain procedures must be followed, regardless if they've been violated in the past. I don't know. But I come down on the side that the chief's intentions were absolutely in the right place, and I would vote to reimburse the chief the money.
Nothing to vote for it, there's no resolution.
Can somebody make a motion to
Gotta be a
reimburse the
resolution
chief?
pending.
To authorize the purchase of non-pro-tunc now for then, and
So,
authorize reimbursement of the chief for 800.
So is the motion that
There is no motion
authorize?
yet.
But you
No,
can make
I'll make the motion.
Right.
So the motion, and correct me if I get it incorrectly, my motion is to authorize the purchase of said table
Retroactive.
and to authorize the reimbursement to Chief Naga of $820. I think that's the purchase price.
Whatever the exact,
It's exactly $820.
what's the exact figure, chief?
That's the motion.
So moved.
Any discussion? Bob?
Yeah, I have discussion.
Go ahead, Scott.
So Chief, you intimated that you're sort of like a dual standard?
I'm going to refrain from that because it's going to get addressed on a different platform.
No other further questions?
I'm sorry?
No other
further
questions?
So what?
So the motion
Then we
is
should have a roll call
made
vote.
and second.
Right, roll call vote on the motion then.
Madam
Committeeman Lavender,
Abstain.
Committeeman Ray,
Abstain.
Committeeman Verleza,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Paserchia,
Yes.
Mayor Dorsey.
Clerk? No.
So the motion passes.
So can I add a resolution? Will you accept my resignation as QPA?
Sure.
Because you all said that you would permit me and back me up in enforcing the local public contracts law that you have all just violated. So please note that as of today, I'm resigning as QPA.
Well, if Nancy wants that motion, do you really want to resign? You need a motion, you can send a resignation letter. if you
Well,
want.
you said you would support the upholding of the local public contracts law, didn't you? You have letters from your auditor. You have several legal opinions. You have an email where I reimbursed him for $250 that he made on his personal credit card the week before this.
Debit card.
You have an email where I said, you're not going to get reimbursed if you do this again. It violates the local public contracts law. And yet you're going to vote for it anyway?
Don't look at me. So if you want to resign.
I know it's an uncomfortable situation, but I just don't feel comfortable with the chief coming out of his pocket for that $800.
Vic, there was a choice. What was it, stuff for the kitchen, correct, chief?
There's a table for the conference room, for the interview room, and a table for
And
the
I
kitchen.
So
certainly
it
don't
should
want
also
to
be
lose
said
you
for
as
the
the...
record that none of you spent $500,000 on a building. None of you said buy used furniture. Nobody said there was a limit on how much could be spent. You're putting used furniture in a brand-new building. That was a choice,
The tables
that the
were gone.
chief made.
The tables were gone, so everybody knows that they're gone. They were destroyed.
I-
They had to get replaced.
I can understand where you guys are coming from, and I respect what, what you're saying. I came in, I'm a member of the Township Committee for the past 2.5 years, so I only know the history of the past 2.5 years. And based on my knowledge of the chief and his intentions and his dedication to the police department, I don't think there was any intent on, doing something inappropriate. I think his intentions were honorable. He went above and beyond, and for that reason, I would not feel comfortable having him get stuck for that money. I'm not trying to insult anybody.
He was made aware that he
And-
would
and-
not get reimbursed.
And now, based on this conversation and what's happened tonight, I would be comfortable moving forward for me, saying, hey, chief, please in the future. And I'm not saying, again, that necessarily you did anything wrong here.
Committee Member Veleza, if
Yes.
you're uncomfortable, as the QPA stated, you're violating some purchasing or some finance laws. I'm going to request that the committee appropriate money for stipend for additional duties and responsibilities that were encountered during the flood, during the whole process of moving the building in and out. It's duties and responsibilities above that of a police chief. And I would ask for a stipend to cover my extra time and costs involved, personal costs and personal time involved in getting things back together. So if that's a more proper way to do it, I would float that idea before you, so that way you're not in any kind of concern violating any kind of laws.
Look, I go by the experts, so I'm saying it's nothing personal, Chief. Obviously not. It doesn't matter who it was. I would
get
give
it.
any town employee the same exact thing I gave you. It's nothing personal at all. It's just, hey, I have to follow the rules.
You know
I
what?
don't
If
want
you
you
want,
violating.
if you want to give him a stipend in the amount of $820 and Jack says it's legal, I'm perfectly fine with that.
In addition to the $820?
No, in the amount of
No.
$820.
In lieu of,
As a solution.
The solution's already made. You gave him the money back.
Well, I think what this is, could possibly be a better solution,
Yeah.
technically.
I agree.
So motion to remove my motion. I don't know what
Motion
how
to
that works
Motion to
legally.
reconsider.
Can I make a motion to reconsider how the reimbursement is being made?
If we do that, are you unresigning?
I will unresign.
All right.
That's a good solution.
All right, so can I make a motion that for the, motion to provide a stipend to the chief for the work that went above and beyond what is the chief's job responsibility during the time that the police were in temporary quarters.
And to revoke the resolution or the motion that was passed previously.
Can I just add to what I just said?
Yes, yes.
And to revoke the previous resolution that was motioned by me, seconded by Vic, abstained by Committeeman Lavender,
Score.
no vote by Matt Dorsey, and
Abstained by
abstained by Brendan Ray.
So moved.
So, okay, I made the motion.
So second, so moved,
So,
second.
can I say it?
Yeah, I
Megan?
don't care. Megan, go
Committeeman
ahead.
Lavender,
Yes.
Committeeman Ray,
Abstain.
Committeeman Verleza,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Paserchia,
Yes.
Mayor Dorsey.
No. Any other members of the public have any comments, questions, anything? Anybody online? Mr. Aronowitz.
Charles Aronowitz, Millington. This last discussion drives me crazy. I can't believe this group, whether it be elected officials, employees, safety officials, have this discussion. Where is the teamwork? This amazes me. I am floored about the prior 10 minutes. I'm embarrassed. If people are viewing at home, they've got to be embarrassed at what just went on here. It's absolutely crazy. You've got dedicated employees and volunteers, and we're arguing and discussing over $820, and he saved us $1,200. Oh God, help me.
Sadly, you have.
I mean, you can tell me about all the government policies.
Well-
We stopped doing government consulting because it wasn't worth it, okay? But you can work around it. This is embarrassing. You all should be embarrassed. This is crazy.
Chuck, didn't we just work around it?
Yeah, but the embarrassment to get there, Scott,
that's
to
'cause
get there,
I get it, I
that's
get
not
it.
the point, Scott. There's been personality clashes and issues with this group a long time. It's never been addressed, and it needs to be addressed. Not in public like this. It's not acceptable, Scott. I'm sorry.
You don't know what goes on behind the scenes. It was
I'm
tried
telling
to
you,
be
what I
addressed.
see in public is not acceptable, period.
This issue was attempted to be addressed
In private.
in private.
Never addressed, okay? It's embarrassing, embarrassing. Look in the mirror, all of you. It's embarrassing.
It was addressed.
I think it could have
wasn't
went,
addressed.
I think it could have gone smoother, Chuck, but I honestly don't feel embarrassed about the way I conducted myself.
Okay. Anybody online?
Yes, there's two people with their hands raised. So, Dennis Sandow, I'm going to allow you to speak. Dennis, can you hear us?
I certainly can.
Talk louder, please, Dennis.
Hello?
There you go.
Sorry. I'm not accustomed to talking loud.
Dennis, we can't hear you too clearly.
Speak softly and carry. Who was it that said that?
Teddy Roosevelt.
I have, believe it or not, I started out with one item, but over the course of this meeting, I've accumulated 5. I hope you have patience with me. The first item I would like to make an observation about is the question of the Communications Committee, the Police Communications ad hoc committee. It seems to me we should not penalize people for having knowledge. So much of the discussion that I heard tonight on a variety of matters was based on the fact, or lack of facts, and lack of knowledge by the people who are contributing. And Committeeman Ray volunteered to serve on this committee and was told that because of, he's too smart, he's got conflicts of interest and he should not serve on the committee. I disagree. I think that the Township Committee should be seeking as much expertise as possible. And incidentally, if that happens to be in the head of a Township Committee member, that's not a detriment. You shouldn't be penalized for volunteering for public service. My second point has to do, oh, you're gonna love this, I'm dredging up an old business now. The Emerald Ash Borer.
Oh, that's Guy's topic. Go ahead, Dennis.
I'm sorry, Dennis, I'm really having a hard time
Your
hearing.
bug, that emerald ash borer.
Oh, that guy.
Emerald Ash Borer. I'm speaking as loud as I can. The county cut ash trees on the county rights of way 3 years ago. They appropriated a large sum of money to do that. Based on the number of trees that the county cut in Long Hill and based on their road mileage, it appears to me that there might be 1,000 or more ash trees on the Long Hill Street rights of way that need to be cut. And my question is, do we have a program for cleaning up diseased trees in the township street rights of way? And have we estimated the cost of that and have we budgeted for it?
You might know, I have no idea.
Well, I mean, there's no hiding that we did not budget for it,
To take trees down?
but not 1,000.
No, not 1,000, but we have a budget every year to take trees down, and ash trees are part of what we take down.
That's in addition to what the DPW takes down?
No,
it's part-
well, no, we contract it out.
Oh, okay, that's what
Every
I
year.
thought, all right.
Al, if you had to estimate how many, and by the way, Dennis, I respect your intelligence immensely, but I don't know that you know it's 1,000. So,
Well, I do know that the county took down 20 trees per mile on the county rights of way, and we've got 60 miles of township roads, and if 20 trees per mile is the going average that the county found, that works out to a little over 1,000 for municipal. Maybe it's not 1,000, maybe it's 800, but the cost of removing one large tree is pretty substantial, and we could be talking about 6 figures here for tree removal.
no doubt. Can I ask DPW Director Al Gallo a question? I imagine when you put in for the budget for tree removal, you had gone out, you are a trained arborist, I'm sorry. So I imagine you would put into that budget the thought of how many trees you think may need to come down in 2022?
Yeah, so that budget's increased over the last couple of years. I think we're at 38,000 this year, it was 35 last year, and we used pretty much all of it last year. And we made the year through that, so we did add some money to that. And through the co-op, it is a lot cheaper than a homeowner taking down an ash tree. If you were as a homeowner taking that tree, had a contractor come in, it would probably cost you $2,000 to $3,000. Our biggest large diameter tree through the co-op is around, I think, $1,300 with the stuff we make.
That-
So there is definitely
So-
savings there through the co-op.
So Dennis, I don't know if you can hear Al's response. Some thought was put, well, a lot of thought was put into the budget as to the removal of the ash trees that have died.
What about those that haven't died? But will?
Well, I've got a bunch on my property. I'm hopeful that they made it through 3 years, and it cost an awful lot to treat them. I'm hopeful that they survive.
I have been approached, point number 3, I have been approached by some neighbors who have large ash trees, some of which may or may not be in the right-of-way. And the next question is, do we have a program to assist the property owners in determining whether the tree is or will be diseased and whether or not it's on the right-of-way or on private property, and that will control who has to pay for its removal? Do we have any such program, or have we assigned that anywhere?
But Al said yes. Al said yes, Dennis.
Through the tree permit.
Through the tree permits.
Well, the tree permit is if you have already determined that it's your tree, it's more than 12 inches, and you intend to take it down. But I'm asking for some sort of municipal survey work to determine whether or not the tree does have to be taken down. No point applying for a permit if it doesn't have to be taken down. I don't know if this is a shade tree issue or an algallo issue.
So Dennis, on the tree permit, there is a sketch that the person has to fill out, not to measurement, but if it's close to the roadway or a township right-of-way, I get all those registrations into my, Megan sends them over to me in email. I go out and check and measure it. 8 out of 10 times they are in the township right-of-way. And if they're not, they're just notified that they're their tree and they're responsible for removal and paying for that. Does that answer your question?
No. Because those of us who live on cul-de-sacs have really very little idea of what is the extent of the township right-of-way. 8 feet, 10 feet, is it squared off around the round corners? This is an engineering and surveying issue, perhaps.
Okay, so I do it 20 feet, 25 feet if it's a 50-foot right-of-way from the center of the road, including the cul-de-sacs.
So you can determine, you can come out and measure and determine whether or not a tree is in the right-of-way, and then decide whether or not, or advise whether or not it is diseased and whether or not you will take it down or the property owner has to. There's a lot of questions there.
Yes.
And that's the concern that I'm up against.
Yeah, so if a resident calls me tomorrow and says, I think the tree's on my right-of-way, I go to that location, I look at the right-of-way of that road, and measure accordingly and notify them. Yes, it's our tree, we'll tag it. If we could do it in-house, we'll do it. If not, we put on a contractor's list for them to take it down. If it's their property, with the tree ordinance, they're allowed to remove the tree, which they will because it's a dead ash, but it's on their dime.
Okay, thank you. I will, as soon as the post office opens tomorrow, I will send you a postcard and so ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
Anybody else, Megan?
Now wait, that was only 3 of 5.
Yeah, I was keeping score, Dennis. I knew.
I was too, but I hope you didn't forget. Do you need Al for anything else, Dennis?
Item number 4 is, I appreciate the fact that the mayor mentioned the Chamber of Commerce Street Fair next Sunday, the 24th. Please all come. We actually, if you've been keeping score, we haven't had a street fair in 3 years. Because in 2020, we started a string of 6 cancellations. This will be the 7th attempt to hold the 2020 street fair. And so those of you who last came in 2019 may have forgotten just how much fun you can have there.
Okay, number 5.
Number 5, I have it on good authority that the chairman of the planning board will be at the street fair, and he will be happy to entertain any questions or discussions about the master plan or budget, and that'll be a first because to date, no one has discussed it with him. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
Dennis, thank you.
Thank you.
Megan, anyone else online?
It looks like the Keelik family is looking to talk, so I'm going to allow you to speak if you could. Oh, hold on.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Hi, Thomas Keelich, 6 Madison Street. So I've been listening into a lot of this back and forth, and there was a lot of back and forth today. I'm glad we came to some resolution on the chief's reimbursement. As an accountant, that conversation did pain me a little bit. I think Nancy's comments should be taken to heart. It's a difficult job. I know she does. So just want to put out some support for her there. But ultimately glad we did come to a resolution on that. The bigger topic I want to talk about is Long Hill's favorite topic, which is the water and the flooding that we experience. So many topics were tied into the flooding. The township spent a lot of money rehabilitating the police station along with that furniture purchase. There was an earlier conversation about the playing fields being underwater. This past Thursday, we had another rain event. If anyone would like to come by for a swim in my backyard, I'm still underwater by about 2 or 3 feet. So just wanted to continue the conversation about, I know there's been conversation about the flood wall. I've heard very little about just general maintenance of the Passaic River and the related tributaries, so just wondering where we stand on that. There was some conversation last fall about, in the past, the Boy Scouts coming out and doing some clearing in there. We'd just love to hear a little bit more about that.
As to the flood wall, we haven't heard really anything, correct, Guy?
Well, no, that's a work in progress where we have to, there are moving parts to this. There's the state, there's the federal government, there's the DEP, and there's the Army Corps. So to your point about the tributaries,
That's a DEP issue too, isn't it? Based on our conversation about Millington with Mr. Corbett, that's a DEP issue too. So that'd be something they would have to at least approve or get involved in, because we're not allowed to go in there with machinery and do things. As to the Boy Scouts, unfortunately, Mr. Lavender's left. He might have an answer for you. I know they're working on a project in Hicks Track right now, but it doesn't include flood mitigation. So as to the tributaries to the river, we haven't heard anything from the DEP about cleaning them out, but I think the other issue is the water gets backed up from the river into the tributaries, I think. So that's part of the problem in itself. And even for dredging the river or anything like that, it's the same issue. You need the DEP, because our DPW can't go in the river and do things, correct, Al?
No, not with machine.
Yeah, they're not supposed to be in the river, especially with machines, so they can't really put a dent into it.
And we'll have to hear what the Army Corps says. I don't know if things have, or their opinion has changed in the last 15 years, because their design started long before the 2011 conclusion of that proposal. But at the time, the decision to move in the direction of what the Army Corps recommended, if I remember correctly, unfortunately, cleaning debris out of the river would not stop the flooding.
Did we answer your question, sir? Or you haven't? I hope we tried to, but I don't know if we did.
To an extent, obviously the flood wall is the ultimate, solution to this. My concern is, the rain event that happened last Thursday, 6 days ago, should not have been this significant. And talking to my neighbors, this has become more and more of a problem through the years. So I understand that this is not the ultimate solution, but whether it's the DEP that needs to come in I'm one resident. If the township could request that of the DEP or whichever agency, the county, whoever needs to come in and do that work, obviously you guys have a louder voice than I do, but, I think small steps in addition to the bigger plan would be appreciated by a lot of the residents in this community.
Yeah, we can have the township engineer contact the DEP and see if there's any grants or they're willing to help out with this, or at least formulate a plan. That's not an issue. So we have no problem doing that for you. Hopefully you get an answer. Go ahead, Brendan.
Yeah, sorry, Mayor. I think one thing, it absolutely is the biggest issue facing the township right now. And, it's frustrating because we don't really, as much as we think we're trying to do something, we're really not doing anything. I think that's basically the sum and substance of it. And so, one thing I think I'd like to do is to try and put together a coalition of towns that run along the river, that are situated along the river. And I think with the added weight that might bring, it just would feel that we're actually doing something positive, that we could, even if the flood wall situation comes to fruition, then I think having those towns and having regular contact with them on this issue will help us significantly. And so what I'd like to do is try and take a positive step here and actually put together a coalition of all the other towns that are on this river, and let's pool our thinking, and let's think about how, with the added size that we provide, maybe we can get federal, maybe we can get state agencies to actually start to pay attention to us and actually provide some money.
So that's a good idea. And Vic said he would contact Senator Bramnick, who he's friendly with, and maybe even Senator Kane. And because obviously they have a vested interest right along, most of those towns you mentioned are right along their district on the river.
Yeah.
So maybe they can help out.
I can reach out tomorrow, and I know he'll be, looking forward to do what he can to help.
Yeah, and Tom Kane was here, but Brendan, you were with him. He saw it. So he saw. What goes on.
No, I think that's great, but I think we work together, Vic, in a concerted manner, because the other thing I'd like to do is the more important thing is talking to those towns and getting them. And if they come back and they say, "Look, we're just not interested," okay, we have an answer. But I'd like to put together that coalition, and then we can bring in whoever we need to, whether it's
Maybe they could help us put together that coalition.
Whatever.
You know what I mean? That's why I thought maybe it would be worth giving them a call.
Yeah, it's not going to hurt.
Because I agree with you. I think they would be interested, because from what I understand, in other areas where they did a wall, if one town puts a wall here, the next town below the wall gets hit hard. So I have a feeling that everybody would most likely be interested.
We're wading into an area that's an engineering answer. That was asked and answered by the Army Corps. The proposal here, I cannot speak for other towns, the proposal here, the Army Corps testified, as did the township engineer, as did the previous township engineer, as did the DEP engineer, as did the engineer that this township hired.
That wouldn't happen here?
All said that even if you had Noah's flood, the proposal that was for Long Hill Township at most would be 1/10 of 1 foot, 1.2 inches. And actually, our current engineer, Mark, who works with Paul Ferreira, he redid the numbers now, and it's actually like 0.7 inches. So even if you ended up with Noah's flood, the proposed project in Long Hill would cause a de minimis effect
in other
upstream, downstream, north and south. So I'm not saying that doesn't change. That's why we're going to have to revisit this. They may come in and say, we got it all wrong. It's going to be worse.
Got it.
Or it's going to be exactly as we said.
No, I got it. I think it's definitely time to further the conversation.
Yeah, so actually, if everybody's okay with it, we'll work on it together.
Good idea.
100%.
Yep.
I'm going to ask you,
well,
Guy,
apparently I formed committee. Apparently I formed the committee. You be quiet, Mayor. I'm forming a committee with Vic and Brendan.
You call Mikey Sherrill, and those guys will do the other work.
And we're going to ask for.
That's right.
We're going to ask for, I know you have deep contacts with the members of those committees and at least.
Fair enough.
At least the introductions there, so.
Got it.
Of
That's
course,
a good idea.
of course.
Mr. Callis, you still there?
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
we're
I
on
am.
camera.
Yeah, no.
All right, any other questions?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you for
I'll
calling.
be tuning
Thank
in
you.
next time to hear about the progress on this committee and using that word, so hopefully I use it right.
Thank you, sir. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Be good.
Madam Clerk, anybody else?
It looks like Dennis Sandow has raised his hand again.
He's limited to 5 questions per day, unless it's something pressing. Can you pre-screen it?
No, I cannot.
All right.
Should I allow him to talk?
10:15,
Am I allowing him to talk?
briefly.
I won't take very much time, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much for letting me speak again. I neglected to mention that the Chamber of Commerce and me personally gives great amount of thanks to the Police Department, the Public Works Department, CERT, the First Aid Squad, for all the help that they are giving us for the street fair. And in case I forget to mention it again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dennis. Any other people from the public?
I do not see anyone, Mayor.
All right, before we adjourn, I'd just like to wish all the people that work and live here happy Ramadan, happy Passover, and happy Easter. It's a busy month. So I hope everybody enjoys their holidays, and I'll entertain a motion to dismiss.
So moved.
Second. Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank
Good night,
you.
everyone.
That's all.